Hi, I'm Anthony, and I built the ultimate AI agent. So why did I build this? 2 weeks ago, one of my students made a killer post in my school community. He said that he landed his first client in the med spa niche and he wanted some help with it. Or if I could just do a full course explaining exactly how I built production-ready AI voice agents. And so I did. You're about to watch the full 10-part course where I explain exactly how to build production-ready AI voice agents. And by the end of the course, you'll have a fully functional AI voice agent ready to profit from. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm building the ultimate AI agent for my students. Today, I'm going to be focusing on step 1, the 24/7 AI receptionist for new patient booking and SMS confirmation. Now, in this tutorial, I'm going to be going as slow and as thoroughly as possible. So make sure you set up your second monitor and follow along. Let's go ahead and get started by checking real quick what exactly our student wants in his appointment center. So for the purposes of this video, we will focus on number 1, 2, and 3. So it's going to need to answer an inbound call from either a new or an existing client. Then, depending on if it's a new or existing client, we need to ask it some questions for lead qualifications, such as what kind of treatment are you interested in? Have you had this treatment before? And anything else, basically. And then if it's an existing client, we need to ask it if it needs to do things like reschedule an appointment or anything else. So this is actually really complicated. There's a lot of things going on here, but I'll show you exactly how to figure it out. So basically the way that we need to do this is that we need 2 simple tools. We need a tool for setting up our AI voice agent, and then we need a tool for setting up our backend, which is going to handle the automatic workflow. So the tool that we will use for our AI voice agent is called VAPI. Go ahead and go to vapi.ai. This is what that's going to look like. By the way, you can get started for absolutely free using the links in the description. Go ahead and hit sign up. Once you've done that, you're going to see a dashboard that looks like this. Now, this is basically the overview. It'll basically just tell you some of your metrics and things like that. Now, again, when you get started, you will get 10 credits for free, which is about 200 minutes. It'll be more than enough for you to get started and find your first client. So the next tab is called metrics. And as I was saying earlier, it basically just tells you how many minutes you've used, how much it costs, and how much each call costs. Pretty basic stuff. And the 3 tabs that we're really going to focus on are the assistance tab, the tools tab, and the phone numbers tab. Now, the reason for that is we need to build our assistant. Then we need to create some tools to give it. And then we need to get a free phone number so that we can attach it to the assistant that we just built. So let's actually get right into it and go ahead and build our first assistant. So click on assistants, go to create assistant. Here we're going to call it the ultimate agent. Perfect. Click on create assistant. This is what it's going to look like when you create your assistant from scratch. It's going to show you the cost. Right now it's saying that's 10 cents per minute. The latency, which is basically how long it takes to load. Now, I wouldn't trust this. It's actually very dependent just on the type of model you use. So really you just need to test it, and it's different for every model. So the first one that we can test out is OpenAI. Now there's a bunch that you can choose from. For example, Google's pretty common, Grok, if you like, if you want to try that out. But the point is I've done a lot of testing and I figured out that the model that I like the most is actually called GPT 4.1 mini. And actually, it looks like they just released the GPT 5 model. So that's actually pretty exciting. I'm actually going to test it because I'm almost positive that the GPT 5 nano model is going to be better than the GPT 4.1 mini. So that's actually really exciting. I'm going to test that out. So GPT 5 nano is what I'll use. And also, by the way, you can test the latency and the price here. Typically, if it's within the same model, 350 ms is obviously going to be faster than 700 ms. So this is way better. And plus it only costs 1 cent, which is actually equivalent. So we'll just go with that. Perfect. Next, we need to change our first message mode. That basically means, are we going to make the agent speak first, or are we going to wait for the other person to say something first? Now for this, it's almost always going to be assistant speaks first, because sometimes if somebody calls your number and nobody says anything, then they're going to think that it didn't work and they're just going to hang out. So we're going to use assistant speaks first. Next, we need to look at our first message. This is basically what is the agent going to say when they answer the phone. So this is pretty simple. It's usually just something like, hello, thank you for calling, whatever business. And then how may I help you? Now, don't actually write this in. I'm actually doing this because we're later going to change it to assistant speaks first with model generated message. So we can actually just ignore all that completely because we're basically going to put it into the system prompt. Now, what is the system prompt? The system prompt is basically the instructions that you give to the AI agent so that it can handle the workflow that you're trying to give to it. So for example, we would typically say something like, you are a helpful receptionist, and your goal is to follow the conversation workflow. And it's going to be step 1, step 2, step 3. And sometimes if you have like an if or and, something like that, you can basically say, okay, if it is a new client, then you go down this workflow. Or if it is an existing client, then go down the other workflow. So that's honestly what we're just going to do here. So it sounds like, you are a helpful receptionist. Okay. Your goal is to follow the following conversation workflow as tightly as possible. Okay, perfect. So once that is done, you can actually go over here and hit publish to save. And you can click on talk to assistant to talk to it and basically test it to see if it's doing what you want. Now, one thing to keep in mind is it takes a really long time to test this, and I've already done this for hundreds of hours. So I already have a bunch of resources that'll help us figure this out. So actually the fastest way to handle this is just use an example that I've already built and then write our new system prompt based on that example. So what you can do is you can go to my school community, and then you can go on to the YouTube prompts and templates tab. And here you can click on the post that I'm going to create and then download the files from here. That'll allow you to easily copy and paste in order to get the correct information. So I've already done that. It's going to be called check availability. It's going to be called assistant prompt real estate. Open that up, Control A to select all, Control C to copy. Now go to VAPI, Control A, Control V. Now, obviously this is going to be for a real estate appointment setter. So we need to update it for the case that we're trying to create, which is for a med spa. But this is important because it gives us a really good baseline of what we need to have, because if you don't have some of these elements, it's going to completely fail. So for example, we need to start first of all with just telling it what the current time is. If you don't tell it what the time is, it's going to look for a date that's like, years in the past or years in the future, and it's not going to be correct. All right. So we need to tell it what time it is. After that, we need to give it what's called a knowledge base. It's just some information that you might need to reference later in the conversation. After that, we need to give it what's called a role, which is we basically say, here's your name, here's what you do, and this is your primary goal. So your name is Brenda, you are a receptionist for the business name, your personality, and your primary goal is to qualify clients and book an appointment. Perfect. And finally, we're going to give it some principles, which is just rules to help it guide what it needs to do. And then down here, we need to tell it its actual conversation playbook. So this will basically be a step-by-step playbook that it goes, okay, well, here's the first thing I'm going to say. And then depending on what they say, I'm going to do step 2. Or depending on what they say there, I'm going to do part B, part A, whatever, right? So let's go through that. Again, it just takes a really long time to test this. And it doesn't really make sense for me to test this with you because it'll literally take hours to do. So perfect. And then at the very end, step 7, we just make sure that it uses the correct tool to book the appointment. So now you're probably wondering, why am I using a real estate prompt for a med client agent? Well, the answer is I'm not. I'm only using this as an example to make it easier for me to craft exactly what I need for the med spa niche. So what I'll do is I'll actually copy all of this and then go to your favorite AI. This is the AI that I like to use. It's called Google AI Studio. And the reason why I like this is because you can actually change the temperature. Now, I didn't mention temperature yet, but it's actually available in VAPI as well. And basically what temperature is, it typically ranges between 0 and 1. You can go above 1, but once you do that, it gets really crazy. But essentially what temperature is it's how crazy the AI agent is. So if we set it at 2, it's going to be extremely crazy. It's going to say stuff that you probably don't want it to say. And actually we can test this real quick too. But um, what I've found is that temperature of 0.4 is going to be the best pretty much for any application. And the reason why is because if you set it too low, the answers are going to be the exact same every time. And actually it's really not that accurate for some reason. So it does need some degree of freedom or craziness, right? But if you set it to 1, it's a little bit too varied. And it's a little bit, it does misunderstand sometimes. So I found that the best balance is 0.4. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, here is an example prompt. Okay, and give it some space. And then I'm going to go back over to the requirements from my student. And I'm basically going to give it the requirements so that it knows exactly how to create it. Okay. So now go back over here. And here are the requirements for the new AI agent that I am creating for the med spa niche. Give some more space. Now that it has the context that it needs, all that we need to do is give it a goal. Basically tell it what we need it to do. So your goal is to give me the updated assistant prompt that would properly handle the conversational flow or the med spa agent using the requirements and using the example for the real estate agent as an example. Okay. Now, once that is done, all you need to do is hit run and just wait for a minute or so and it'll give you a perfect answer. Okay. Now, next we can go back to VAPI and do some more setup. So as I was saying, here you can actually change the temperature from 0 to I think 2 as well. The default is set to 0.5. That does work, but I've just found that 0.4 is better. So I usually use 0.4. And by the way, you can actually add files. And this is basically if you want to add some company information, you can actually just download it and then upload it here. But the reason why I don't like that is because it doesn't update very well. So every time your file changes, you need to go back here and manually update it. That's not very scalable. What's better is to just use a separate workflow for n8n called a RAG, which is Retrieval Augmented Generation. If you use my template, you'll be able to automatically update your company information, and the agent will be able to automatically have the most up-to-date information at all times. Perfect. Now, the tokens can just stay the same. That just talks about how long is the maximum length of the answer. So if you make it too long, it's gonna, talk for minutes on end. So you don't want that. Just leave it at 250. All right. So next is the voice configuration. Here we have a provider and the voice. Now, provider basically means these are a bunch of different companies that provide voice agents. So for me, the one that I like the most is called DeepGram, Aura 2, and the voice is called Thea. Now, I like this one just because she has a British accent, but honestly, you can choose any of these. There's thousands of them for you to choose and test from. So that's perfect. Now, additional configuration. This is just some background music. Usually it's like a call center. You'll hear like ringing and stuff like that. So the default's usually fine. The transcriber is basically what are we using to listen to the conversation. If we want to make this agent multilingual, we would change the provider to something like multilingual or 11 Labs multilingual, okay? But for our purposes for now, we'll just leave it as English. Next, we need to look at our tools. Now, tools are basically things that we can give to the AI agent, and then we need to tell it how to use the tool. And that is basically going to give it a very structured way to do the functions that we need it to do. So for example, some of the tools that we're going to want to give it are things like qualifying the lead, checking the availability in the calendar, and booking the appointment. Now, if we don't use an actual tool and we try to accomplish this by only using the system prompt, there's a very high chance that it doesn't do it correctly. That's why we need to use a tool and make some fields required so that it can only use it once it has gathered the proper information. So in order to set up our tools, first of all, let's go ahead and hit save, make sure it's correct. And actually, before we do that, let's go and check on our assistant prompt and make sure that looks good. So as you can see, it is writing our assistant prompt. It says that, okay, the business name is called the Glow Clinic, which is fine. You are Chloe, welcoming and professional patient coordinator. That sounds good. Perfect. Greet the user with your first message. Thank you for calling Glow Clinic. This is Chloe. How may I help you? That sounds fine. Follow the correct path based on the conditional tool. If the user is a new client, it's going to say something like this, and then it's going to try to get some information. So once the information is all done, it's going to call the qualify new client tool. So that's really good to know because we're going to need to put this in our automated workflow later to give it the permission to use the check availability tool once it's ready. So same thing here, it's going to ask for a handle existing client tool. So that's already two tools that we need to create. So after it's done with talking to the client, it needs to basically ask what it needs to do next. So for example, it needs to ask, the next step is to book a consultation. Okay. So once we have a time, then we need to use the check availability tool right here. That's perfect. And then once they have selected a time, then we need to say, okay, just confirm I have you down for a certain time. And then we'll use the book appointment tool. So this all makes sense. Now, I do realize that it's not quite what our student asked for because they're asking for things like rescheduling. Now, let's see, where is it? Yeah, they're asking for things like rescheduling and post-treatment. I'm going to get to that in future videos. As you can see in my full course, I think we have it here, rescheduling here. So client management, that's going to be part 4. Now, the reason for that is it's a little bit more advanced. And for this video, I'll just keep it very simple with just the appointment setter. And then we'll get to those more advanced features later. So now we're going to go ahead and use this prompt for our agent just to make sure that it's working. And then we can always update it later. So go back over here and go ahead and hit copy to clipboard. Go back over to VAPI. Now we need to go to our system prompt and paste it in. Okay, perfect. Publish to save. Now, the amazing thing about this is since our AI already has all this information, it's going to be able to help us in the future when we're developing our tools. So go over to VAPI, click on tools. Now we need to create the 4 tools that I just told you about. It's going to be, I believe it's qualify the new lead, or it's going to handle the existing client, or it's going to check the availability, or it's going to book the appointment. So the easiest way to do this, honestly, is to just go over here and I'm going to give it the code for my 2 tools that I've already created. And then I'm going to ask it to create the tools that it basically put into the system prompt. So I'm going to copy these over and we say, good. Now I need you to give me the tool JSON for the 4 tools that you mentioned in the previous system prompt. In your response, I need you to give me full tool JSON for the remaining 2 tools, each in their own block of code. Triple check for accuracy. Okay. Now, so what did I do here? Basically, I gave it some context saying, okay, well, here are the 2 tools that we already have. So that means that we have 2 more tools that need to be done. And the goal is to basically give me the code for the remaining 2 tools. And finally, I asked it to triple check for accuracy. That's really important because sometimes if you only do this once, it will get the logic sometimes incorrect. This model is actually very good at getting it right on the first time, but it doesn't hurt to just say triple check for accuracy. So go ahead and hit run and just let it run. So the way that this will work, go back to VAPI, is we'll just hit create tool to go ahead and get it started. So custom tool. We'll just go ahead and start with what we already know, which is the check availability tool and the book appointment tool. So go ahead and name it check availability, just like that. Next, it's going to ask for a description. We can type in a description, something like, this tool will allow the agent to check the availability of the Google Calendar, something like that. But the crazy thing is it actually doesn't need that information. It doesn't use it at all for deciding how to use the tool. So I usually just leave this blank. Now, some other options that we have are to enable to execute asynchronously, which basically means that it can activate multiple tools at the same time. I personally don't use this very often, if at all, because usually conversations are all very stepwise, right? We want to do one step, and then once that step is done, do the next step. Sometimes if you have too many tools running at the same time, it's not going to work properly. Next, we can also enforce strict parameter validation, which is kind of redundant because down here, if we just say that it's required, then it's required. So I've personally never tried using this. I don't think it's important because, as I said, we can just make sure that it's required in the parameter section. So what are the parameters? Parameters is basically saying what information does our tool need in order for it to get used. So for example, for the check availability tool, what are we probably going to need? Well, we're probably going to need a time or a day where we can search in order to know which day or which days to find the available slots for, right? So basically, we need to create a property called initial search date time. And like I said earlier, that's basically going to give us a set moment in time, after which point we can look for available slots in the calendar. So it's going to be type string because the type that we're going to use is what's something called an ISO date time format. So now the description here is actually really important because that tells the agent what the tool is and how to use the tool. So we would say something like the initial search date time in ISO format. Okay. And again, this takes a while to test. So the best thing to use is actually to just get the information from my school community. So I've already done that. Just go ahead and click on check availability and I'll give you the code. So as you can see, the description says the target date for the availability search formatted as a full ISO 8601 date time string representing midnight in the Chicago time zone. The AI must calculate this based on the user's request. So as you can see, it's really detailed and that's why it's much easier to just get it from information that I've already created. So Control A, Control C to copy. Now here, if you want to create it using no code, you can just hit required here and you would just hit apply. And as you can see, it set it up initial search day and time as type string. And the red star here means that it's required. So that's perfect. However, I want to make sure that the description is 100% accurate. So what I'll do is I'll click on visual editor and that'll allow me to change the code, make it extremely easy to enter. So Control A to select all, Control V to paste, and then hit apply. So, and then you could uncheck this in order to look at what it looks like using no code. So as you can see, initial search day and time, type string required. And then you can hit this pencil to just double check that the description is correct. So as you can see, the description is loaded correctly. So apply, save. All right, now that is the check availability tool all done. So we're just going to create our next tool, which is the book appointment tool. So go ahead and create new tool, custom tool. This will be called book appointment. Perfect. So skip the description, skip the options, go down to parameters. So for the book appointment tool, what type of properties do you think we'll probably need? Well, in order to book appointment, we need the client's name, and then we need the start time, and then we need the end time. That's basically what we need to book an appointment, right? So as I said earlier, you can go ahead and click add property and manually type it in one by one if you want, or if you want to save some time, go ahead and double click the file that you downloaded from my school community. Click on Control A, Control C to copy. Go over here, click on Visual Editor and paste it in. And then scroll down, hit apply. And then uncheck this in order to check what it looks like using a no code. So here it's saying that it's collecting a client name of type string. Oh, by the way, string just means it's text and not things like numbers. So if you're trying to collect numbers, it will be a different format. Okay. And again, the red star just means that's required. And if we click on this, the pencil here, we can check the description. So the full name of the person booking the appointment. It's pretty simple. So same thing with end date and time. We can check that. The end date and time for the appointment, 15 minutes after the start date time. Example. Okay. So remember, it is important that this is correct. So remember in our assistant prompt, I believe it was 30 minutes. So we do need to change this to 30 minutes. You just gotta make sure that everything's consistent. Okay. Lastly, start day and time. The exact start day and time for the appointment in ISO 8601 format. So that sounds correct. Perfect. Apply, save. So that is our second tool fully created. Now, as I said earlier, we need to enter in the 2 new tools that we hopefully have gotten from our assistant over here. So here it says that here is the code for the qualify new client, and here is the code for the handle existing client. That's pretty cool, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy to clipboard, and I'm just going to remember that this tool is going to be called qualify new client. So go over to VAPI, create tool, custom tool. So we called qualify new client. Okay. Skip, go down to parameters, and I'm going to go to visual editor, check, paste, apply, save, and then uncheck this to check if it's doing it correctly or not. So had before, it sounds like it's what it's doing is it's checking to see if the client has had the treatment before. So yeah, that's exactly what it says here. That sounds correct. So that's good. Here, it looks like it's collecting a client name, which is good, but what I would prefer is that it actually doesn't collect it here and instead collects it only when it's ready to book the appointment. Okay. Actually, wait, that's okay. Qualify a new client. Let's see. Yeah, that sounds correct. So we can just get rid of this client email. Okay. So I would actually prefer to not collect an email here because if we're collecting email over the phone, there's a very high chance that it actually screws it up. So what would be better is if we really want to collect the email, we can actually send them a text message from the agent. And then once they answer that text message, the agent can actually get that information and then automatically update the CRM with it. So let's go ahead and delete that for now. We can always change it later. Now, the next one is the client phone. Looks like it's trying to collect the phone number. Now, the issue with this is what again, it can sometimes screw this up pretty badly. And also, this is actually really redundant because the AI agent is smart enough to basically read the phone number that they're calling from. So we already have this information. We don't need to collect it again. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And finally, it's collecting a treatment interest, which I'm guessing is just what type of treatment they want. So, yep, examples, that sounds perfect. Cool. Apply, save. Now that that is done, I'm going to create a new tool and then get that information from our AI agent. So go over here, handle existing client, and this is the code for it. So click on copy to clipboard, go to VAPI. The tool name is going to be called handle existing client. Scroll down to parameters, click on visual editor, paste it in here, click apply, save, and then uncheck the visual editor to see what it looks like with no code. Here, it looks like it's collecting a task. The specific action the existing client wants to perform must be one of reschedule, cancel, new booking, or ask a question. It sounds correct. It'll be a little bit difficult because we haven't set this up yet, but we'll figure out that out later. So apply. Client identifier. The identifying information for the existing client. This could be their full name or their phone number. That sounds good. So what we'll have to do later is in our CRM, we're going to make sure that our agent is able to get that information from our database to identify our client. So that looks perfect. Go ahead and hit save to finish that. Okay. All right. So now that we made some changes to the tool code, what we should actually do is get that code, feed it back into our AI, and then get the AI to give us the updated system prompt. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the code for all of these, copy, and then I'm going to create a Google Doc. Okay. And in the Google Doc, I'm going to create a new document. And in here, I'm going to paste the code so that I have it in one spot to feed it back to the LLM. So this is going to be the code for handle existing client. And then I need the code for the qualify new client. Qualify new client. Get the code for the book appointment. Actually, this is the same, so I don't need to change that. And that's the same, so I don't need to change that. So now I'm going to hit Control A, Control C to copy. Go back to our AI and say, good. I have made some changes to the tool JSON. Given these changes, I need you to update the system prompt to follow my updated conversation or my updated tools so that the updated conversation flow matches my updated tools. That sounds weird, but that's fine. Here is the code for my updated tools. Now we'll just let that run. Now, while that's loading, go back to VAPI. And now that we've created 4 different tools, we need to go back to our assistants and give it those tools. So go ahead, click on assistants, scroll down to the tools tab, click on tools, click on select tools. And here we can just hit select all because we only have 4 tools and they all belong to this agent. So select all. So now, as you can see, it owns the handle existing client tool, qualify new client tool, book appointment tool, and the check availability tool. So go ahead and save that. So now let's check to see if our system prompt has been written yet. Looks like it's still loading. Let's actually just try to see if we can figure this out manually. But basically, I would say the only difference is, like, as you can see here, it's trying to collect things like the client name, client phone, and client email, but we just changed it. So we obviously need to fix that here. So, okay, cool. Updated VAPI assistant prompt, revised flow. By simplifying the qualify new client tool, you're creating a more natural 2-stage qualification process. Yeah, so that's basically what I was trying to achieve is I don't want to ask a bunch of random questions at the beginning. It's just too much friction, right? I'd rather just make sure that they're ready to get a new treatment. And then once they're ready to book the appointment, then I can ask them for their information. So, okay, cool. So go ahead and copy this to the clipboard. Let's just read this real quick, see if it's good. Have you had this treatment before? That sounds good. Okay. After the tool has been called, make the offer. So once it's ready, use the check availability tool and then book the appointment. That looks perfect. So let's go over here, Control A, Control V to paste and publish. Now the thing here is I would rather spend more time testing it and then figure out what went wrong than trying to read it one by one and trying to fix it first. So it's much faster if you try to, it's much faster if you just move fast and then fix it as you kind of go. So I believe that's all done. So next thing that there is to do is go to phone numbers and create a phone number. So click on phone numbers, click on create a phone number, and you can choose whatever area code that you want. If you live in a particular area, you're going to want to choose that area so it looks more natural when people call your phone number. But for me, since it doesn't matter, I'll just hit 326. And by the way, you can get up to 10 free US phone numbers per account when you sign up using the link in the description. So go ahead and do that. That would be very good. So go ahead and click create. Usually takes some time to get that loaded. It's like 2 minutes to get it activated, but that's fine. Okay, well, it's saying that's not available, so we'll hit, I guess, 223. Perfect. So now it just gave me a free phone number, and this is basically the number that I will be able to call in order to test out my agent. And later on, when I get a client or when my student gets his client, then he'll be able to basically just give this phone number to that client, and then they'll be able to use that in their website or, in all of their promotions. And that's how people are going to be able to reach this client. So, all right. So the phone number label is just any name, doesn't really matter, but we'll just name it Ultimate Agent. And then here is our inbound phone number. That's correct. And we just need to select the assistant that we created. And basically what this does is it says, when somebody calls this phone number, what agent is going to answer the phone? And here we just said that we want the ultimate agent to answer the phone. So that's perfect. Now, later on, we're going to do outbound settings, but that's going to be for lead reactivation. And that's going to be in another video. So go back over here and hit save. Done. So now what do we just do? We just set up our assistants. we just set up our tools. After we set up our tools, we went back to our assistants and we gave our assistant the tools that we just created. Finally, we created a free phone number, and then we assigned to that phone number the assistant that we just created. That's perfect. Our VAPI is perfectly completed. Now, the next thing to set up is our backend or our automated workflow. What does that mean? Well, the program that I use and which I think is the best for this is called n8n. It looks like this, links in the description. You can get started for absolutely free with this one as well. So go ahead and hit get started for free. Once you've done that, you're going to see a screen that looks somewhat like this. It's going to give you overview, your personal workflows, and just information about your account and things like that. And in the middle here is what we're interested in. This is a no-code automated workflow builder that will allow us to create workflows that we can use repeatedly, automatically, 24/7. So it's extremely useful. So in order to get started, you may have to go here and click on the plus sign to hit new workflow. So I'll just try that. Yeah, because it's already a new workflow, it's going to make it look like this. So it's going to look like this. And basically what we need to do is we need to add blocks or nodes in order to tell the workflow what exactly it needs to do. So we can just get started real quick, click add first step. Now, these are going to be the different ways that we can automatically trigger or start the workflow. So just to keep it simple, I guess we'll just start with trigger manually. Now, trigger manually just means that you can come over here and click execute workflow and it'll automatically start. But obviously that does require you to manually click start. So what we can do now is if we click on the plus sign over here, we can add what we want it to do after the workflow starts. So let's see, in this case, I believe that we wanted to do something called routing. It's actually going to be a switch node. Now, the point of a switch node is basically saying that if A, then B, right? So it's saying, okay, well, if the name of the tool is check availability, then I'm going to route it a certain direction, and that's going to help me decide which way or what part of the workflow to go in. So here, it'll basically be something like tool name is equal to check availability. Okay, I think I spelled that wrong. Availability. Okay. And then we'll just rename the output so that it's very clear on the outside when we look at our node. So we'll name it check availability. Is that spelled right? Check availability. Okay. So now I'll just exit to show you what that looks like. By the way, you can hit save every once in a while to make sure that you don't lose your progress. So yeah, here, as you can see, when I click this, it's going to go from left to right, and it's going to move over to this switch node. And right now I have one route available called the check availability route. So that's cool. Now we're going to need to add a few more routes that will basically allow us to route the workflow the way that we need it to. So we have a total of 4 different tools. So we're going to need to create 4 different ones. So tool name, this is going to be called book appointment. Rename output, book appointment. So perfect. As you can see, it just created a second step, right? So basically, if I hit plus here, I'll be able to decide what I want to do later in the workflow when the name of the tool is called check availability. And same thing with here, when the name of the tool is called book appointment, then I'll be able to decide what I want to do after here. So as you can see, it's going to take a really long time for you to manually build this out for yourself. And I've already done this using hundreds of my hours. So I'm just going to use that in order to teach you a little bit quicker. So go over to here. I have created the template for you. It's called appointment setter. Well, in this case, it's just a general template. We're going to have to adapt it for the new agent that we created, but that's going to be the example. So go ahead and hit these 3 dots over here. Click import from file. And then click on appointment setter real estate. Perfect. And as you can see, it just created or it just uploaded the entire template that will work for this agent. So as you can see, I'll just delete this real quick. Now, the way that this workflow starts is that it uses something called a webhook. Now, what is a webhook? A webhook is a URL where you pass data to that URL so that you can receive it from a different program. So basically what will happen is if I just double click on here, you'll actually see it. As you can see, there's a URL here so that when I pass data from the tool in VAPI, it can actually receive that data from n8n. So I'll actually show you how to do that right now. Go click on production URL. Now, the reason why we're using the production URL is because we're going to need to set our workflow to active. And what that means is once it runs once, it can run twice, 3 times, and over again without you having to manually activate it. Now, that's important because when we make a call, it's going to run tool after tool after tool. So we can't just leave it on test, because if it's on test, it's going to run one tool and it's going to completely stop. And then you'll have to reactivate it if you want to use it again. So pretty much for our purposes, it's always going to be production, because you can always test it in production, but you can't use production in test. Okay, so click on this a couple times, just make sure that's copied. And then we're going to go back over to VAPI. Now, the point of this is to go to tools and then scroll down. There's going to be a section called server URL. And that's basically saying, what is the URL to your server? And as I said earlier, our backend server is called n8n. And so the URL to our server is this. So we just paste it in here. And basically what that means is once it has the information, the data, then it's going to send it over on this URL so that it can get passed to n8n. Okay, so once that's done, go ahead and save. Now we're basically going to repeat that for all of our tools, because we need to pass the data from all of our tools to our n8n workflow. So now that that is all completed, we can go back to n8n and fill it all out. Now again, it would just take some time to just explain all of these, but for our purposes, it's almost always going to be post. Yeah, it's just going to be post, and then authentication, you can change that later once you're using production, just so other people don't attack your URL. Cool. So that's fine. And we're going to use respond to webhook, because the point here is that at the end of using each of the tools, we need to send the new data back to our agent. So for example, if we look at the check availability route, what will happen is we get the data from here, and then it goes over here. And then since the name of the tool is check availability, it's going to reroute the workflow over here. And then in these nodes, it's going to calculate the slots. It's going to get the availability from the Google Calendar, and it's going to calculate the available slots. And then it's going to respond to our AI agent with the available times so that it'll give the client some available slots from which they can choose. And then after they've chosen a slot, then they'll say, it'll use the book appointment tool. Okay. So once it uses the book appointment tool, it's going to go over here and try to book the appointment into the Google Calendar. And once it's done that, it's going to say, success, your booking has been confirmed, something like that. Okay. And finally, we're going to need to add another tool called, I think, handle existing lead, whatever. But basically, we're going to add another webhook here, which basically says your lead has been properly qualified, or this is a existing client and they've been properly qualified, whatever. And that basically tells the AI agent that it's good to move forward. So all that we need to do here is basically update our template to make sure that it makes sense for what we just built. Now, the easiest way to do that is to just go over here and click over here. And as you can see, we need to add a new tool. So this one should be called qualify new lead. Actually, I think it's called qualify new client. Let me check that real quick. Yeah, qualify new client. And then we're going to need to add a new routing rule. And so earlier I said that this was called tool name, and that was just a placeholder, because when VAPI sends over the information, it's not actually called tool name. It's located in this JSON code, and all we need to do is grab it from over here, which is the input, and then put it into the middle here. And then after it's been processed by this node, it's going to output it as output data. So no, that's wrong. So it's just going to be called this, and then qualify new client is going to be renamed qualify new client. And then here it's going to be called handle existing client. Okay. Handle existing client. Perfect. So we can go ahead and save. It looks like there was an error here, so let's go ahead and fix that. Rename as, so rename as qualify a new client. Save. All right, so perfect. As you can see now, there are 4 different routes that the workflow can take. And all we need to do is we would need to copy this webhook so that we can connect it when the name of the tool is called handle existing client. So we'll just hold on this plus and then go to the left side here. Now it's all connected. So also, if you want to make it look a little cleaner, you can just right click and then hit tidy out workflow. Perfect. So as you can see, it cleaned up a lot. Now we can save it. Now, one thing also, by the way, is that the easiest way to actually do this is to just use our AI, because obviously we can go through this one by one, and which will be fine, but it's easier to just use the AI. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here, click on these three dots. I'm going to hit download. And this one, I'm going to call it the ultimate agent.json. And basically what that does is it gives me the code for this workflow. And now if we go back to our AI, remember that this AI remembers what we're trying to build. So all we need to do is tell it, okay, well, here is our template. Now I need you to update it with the correct information. So I'm going to go to Finder. I'm going to find the workflow that I just downloaded. So here, and I'm going to drag it over here and put it into the prompt. Okay. So now it's all completely loaded up. And now all I need to do is do some prompt engineering to tell it what exactly we need it to do. So I'm going to say, I have attached the workflow where I started to update a template for an appointment setter. However, there are still many fields which I have yet to update. I need you to use your understanding of the assistant prompt, the tool JSON, and of this example template in order to update the template with the full workflow JSON for my new agent, which will be for the med spa niche. Triple check for accuracy, then respond with the full workflow JSON. Okay, so what did I do here? And you're probably wondering, like, okay, well, it just took you 1 minute to write that prompt. Well, it's much faster to write this prompt than trying to recode the entire thing by yourself. It's literally going to take you hours to do. So basically what I did here is I basically gave it some context saying, okay, well, here is what I currently have. And as you know, we've already worked on these system prompts, and you also have the information from the tool JSON. So all that I need to do is I need for you to update the template with the information from the assistant prompt and from the tool JSON, and then triple check, and then give me the full code. So go ahead and hit run. Perfect. So while that's loading, we can actually just get started over here, and I'll show you how to set up your Google Calendar. So this is, by the way, called a code node. I'll show you that real quick. Basically what this does is it does some math in order to calculate the available slots that are potential. So basically, let's say in any given day, there's 24 hours, right? But if every appointment is 30 minutes, then in reality, there are 48 potential slots. And that's going to cover the entire day. And so that's basically going to give us the full range of potential slots. After that, we're going to get our Google Calendar events. So click on that. Now, this is going to ask you to set up a Google credential. Now, if you don't already have that set up, you're going to have to create a new credential. I've already created a video for that, so I'm going to link to it right above. So once you've done that, click on calendar mode on the list, and then just select your calendar from the list. So it's going to be my calendar here. All right, so once you selected your calendar, down here, it's asking for before and after. Now, basically what that means is it's asking you between what time are you trying to get the events in your calendar. So let's say, for example, I'm trying to get events on January 1st to January 2nd. Well, the way that I would do that is, if you remember from our tool JSON, that in the check availability tool, the information that we need to gather is called initial search date and time. So if in that tool, the time that I'm searching for is January 1st, what'll happen is I'm going to start at midnight on January 1st. And then the after is just going to be the end of the day, right? And so that's going to help me to get all of the slots that I'm looking for. Perfect. And after I've gotten the events from my Google Calendar, then I'm going to use another code node in order to calculate what slots are available. So if you remember here, we calculated what slots are potential. Here, we calculated what slots are taken. And then finally, we need to calculate which slots are available by basically subtracting the slots that are taken from the potential slots. And once that is done, it's going to go into a webhook, which sends the available slots back over to our AI voice agent to tell the client. Perfect. Now, once that is done, the client's probably going to say something like, well, yeah, so now I want to book an appointment for, let's say, January 2nd. Okay. And so once it does that, it's going to route the workflow over here into the book appointment route. It's going to go over here. It's going to try to book the appointment into the Google Calendar. So go ahead and double click here. It's going to automatically update with the credential that you just created in the last step. And then the same thing here, go to calendar from the list, and then you would just select your calendar that you want to book it in. Now, usually it's going to be the same exact calendar that you mentioned in the first one, and because that's your calendar, right? But for my purposes, I'm going to set it to a demo calendar so that it's not interrupting with my actual calendar. So I'll click on that. So here it's asking for a start time and a end time. Now, if you remember from our tool JSON, basically it's saying that we need to collect a start date and time and an end date and time. So that is exactly what we're going to use here for booking that appointment. And also the additional fields is basically going to tell the agent what to book the appointment as in our Google Calendar. So for example, the description is going to be a description, and then summary here just means title. It's a little bit confusing. They could have just named it title, but they named it summary. But basically this is going to be the title. It's going to be, oh, by the way, you can hit this to basically bring it up and make it a little bit easier to see. So I'll click on that. It says that it's going to be the business name, consultation, client name. So in this case, the business name, I believe, says something like Glow Up. So it's like Glow Up Consultation, and then whatever the client's name is. So if you see these curly brackets, that basically means that it's a variable and it's going to change every time based on the information that got passed in. So perfect. And then for the description, it's saying that here's the client contact, their name, their phone number. And remember, this information is still for the real estate agent. So we do need to get that workflow from our AI in order to paste that in. Cool. So that is done. And now these webhooks are basically just saying something like the appointment has been successfully booked. And then I'll tell our AI agent that it's successful. Same thing here. Qualification details noted. You may now proceed with the offer. Now, in this case, the offer is basically saying, yeah, now we can book an appointment. And remember, we just copied that here. So it's exactly the same. So now it is all done. All we need to do is basically update this section here in order to make sure that we need to update this section of qualification details in order to make sure that it is making sense for our new agent, which is for the med spa niche. So in order to do that, we'll go back over to our AI. And as you can see, it just finished our coding. So all we need to do is go back over here and then copy that code. Now, real quick, let's just see what it said. It updated the variables to say the Glow Clinic, and it is a 30-minute duration instead of 50 minutes, which is correct. The switch node has been reconfigured to route based on 4 new tools, so that's also correct. It rewrote the calendar event, which is what I was saying earlier, it needs to fix the qualification details. Now correctly references qualify new client. Perfect. Adding a new response node. So for the handle existing client path, it ensures logical branch feedback to VAPI. That's a really minor thing. I think that shouldn't matter, but as you can see, it can understand it pretty well and it can do what you need it to do. So I'm going to go back over here, and literally what I can do is just delete all this. And then just click anywhere and hit Control V and paste it. So as you can see, it just did all of that. It looks like it's correct, but we'll go through one by one to just confirm. So if you go through this, production URL looks good. It's of type post and same. So that's correct. Now click on variables. Here it's saying the clinic's staff, the Glow Clinic. That's correct. Consultation. Here it's asking for us to actually set the time zone. So that's important. My time zone is American Chicago. You just have to change this to whatever your time zone is. Here is saying that I'm starting my workday at 8 and I'm ending it at 6 p.m. So that's okay. Meeting duration is 30. Booking cadence is 30. Perfect. Buffer before and buffer after. Okay. Now here it's saying that there are 4 different ways to route it, and it looks exactly the same. So that's perfect. Now here, I'm pretty sure it's not going to change the code, so we'll just leave that. And then here, since it basically canceled out our credential, we'll just have to click that into that one more time and set that up. So it's going to automatically upload your calendar from the list. Choose your calendar. Perfect. This should all be the same. Same. Okay. The only thing that changed is here. So here, calendar from the list, and choose your calendar. Start date time, that's the same. End date time, that's correct. So here, oh, okay. So as you can see, it did some changing. It changed this to basically say business name, which in this case is the Glow Clinic, the service name, which is in this case consultation, which is actually the same thing, but it's using the variable instead of the basically hard coding in the word consultation, which is nice. And then here it's saying that it's just adding the client name. So that's actually the same exact thing. Okay. Now over here, it should have updated our description, which it did. So it's saying the client contact is that, the phone number is good, and then the qualification details is what are they interested in and have they had the treatment before, which is correct. Okay, perfect. So as you can see now, that's all complete. So just hit save. And then we need to activate the workflow so that the webhook here is actively, constantly listening for information that gets passed over from the AI voice agent via those tools. So go ahead and click on active. And now all there's left to do is just go over to VAPI to get the phone number and test it all out. So real quick before I do that, I do want to just go through a overview of what we just did, make sure everything's set up so that it works on the first try. So what did we do? We created our assistant. We set it all up. We gave it a system prompt, updated the temperature. We changed the voice. We left all that alone. And then we gave it the 4 tools that we needed. That's perfect. Then for each of our tools, we basically gave it the parameters and then we updated the server URL. So that looks good. That looks good. Good. Okay, so let's just check this one more time. That's fine. And then for our phone number, we create a new free phone number, and then we assigned the phone number, the assistant that we created. So that's perfect. Finally, we went over to n8n, and then we filled out our entire workflow, which I just confirmed for you. And then I hit save, and then I activated it by clicking this to active. So that sounds good. All right, so now that we got everything set up, the last thing that there's to do is to go ahead and head over to VAPI and then get our phone number and call that phone number.
Thank you for calling the Glow Clinic. This is Chloe. How may I help you today? To best assist you, could you let me know if you are a new or an existing patient?
Hey, Chloe, I'm a new patient.
Welcome to the clinic. I'm happy to help you get started. To begin, what treatment are you interested in today? For example, Botox, fillers, or a skin rejuvenation service?
Sure, yeah, I'm looking for some Botox.
And have you had this type of treatment before?
No.
Perfect. Thank you for that information. Based on your interest in Botox, the next step is to schedule a complimentary, no obligation consultation with one of our specialists. Is that something you'd be open to?
Definitely.
Excellent. Which day would work best for you to come in?
Yeah, can we do next Thursday?
Great news. I have a few times available on that day. We have Thursday, August 14th at 1130 a.m. and 12 p.m. Would either of those work for you?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do 12 p.m.
Great. I can book that for you. To finalize the appointment, what is your full name?
My name's Anthony.
Okay, Anthony, just to confirm, I have you down for a consultation on Thursday, August 14th at 12 p.m. Is that all correct?
That is correct.
Excellent. Your appointment is confirmed. You'll receive a text message with all the details shortly. We look forward to seeing you at the Glow Clinic. Goodbye.
All right, thank you very much, Chloe. All right, so there you go. As you can see, it automatically created it just as we said, and it says it correctly identified that I'm looking for Botox and that I have not had the treatment before. So that is absolutely correct. Now, yeah, you just watched me do part 1 of this entire series. I just created from scratch the 24/7 AI receptionist, and there was a lot of debugging along the way, a lot of critical thinking along the way. So I hope you enjoyed kind of seeing the thought process about how we're able to do that. And the cool thing about this is just the beginning. We still have plenty of steps left to go, and it's going to get even more exciting and even more featureful from here. Part 2 of building the ultimate AI voice agent for my students. Today, we're going to be focusing on the clinic expert, answering frequently asked questions using retrieval augmented generation. So real quick, I'm just going to show you what that workflow actually looks like. And it looks like this. It's pretty crazy, right? But don't worry, I'm going to walk through this step by step, show you exactly how it works, and then I'll go and do node by node to really kind of tell you basically how you can implement this for yourself. So go ahead and set up your dual monitor, and let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that you're going to need to do is obviously download n8n if you have not already. This program is called n8n. After that, you will need to go to my school community, go to YouTube prompts and templates, click on the post that I'm going to create, and then download the file just by clicking it and hit download. Okay. Now, once you've done that, go and click the 3 dots here, click import from file, and then you'll be able to click on the thing that you just downloaded. Okay. So I've already did it. So I've already uploaded it here. Now, the way that we would set this up is, first of all, let's just go ahead and do a brief overview of what's happening here. So this is actually 3 workflows stuck together. Later on, I'll tell you exactly how to break them up into 3 different workflows, but I put them all in the same thing here just to make it very easy to see. Now, the first one is up here, okay? As you can see, the trigger for this starts with a VAPI webhook. Now, the goal here is to basically wait for the AI voice agent to send some information over. And then, depending on the tool, since in this case, we're going to call it the get user documents tool, then that's basically saying, okay, well, the client is asking for some information about the company. So we need to go ahead and query our database for that information. So that's going to go ahead to go to a RAG agent, and it's going to use an LLM or an AI basically to understand the query. And then it's going to tell it to query the vector store in order to see if that information actually exists in our company documents. And if it does, then it's going to use the retrieved documents and it's going to give the output back to the VAPI model. Okay. So that's the first one. Now, the second workflow is basically here where we're triggering it based on when a file is created or when a file is updated in Google Drive. And the point of this is basically so that we can update our company information with new information. So first of all, let's just say, for example, we create a new document in Google Drive. Then it's going to automatically set the file ID. It's automatically going to download the data and then enter the data into Supabase. Now, Supabase is just one of many providers of a vector database, but we're using Supabase because it's just extremely easy to use and they have a huge free tier. So you probably will never have to pay for this. So, and the same thing applies to when a file gets updated, it's going to set the file ID. And then if the file already exists in Supabase, then we'll just delete all of the old vectors and then re-upload all of the new information. So this just basically makes sure that all of the data is very clean and correct in Supabase. Finally, we have a workflow here at the bottom, which starts on a schedule trigger, which I've basically set to every 15 minutes. It's going to get the documents from Supabase, and it's also going to get the documents from Google Drive, and it's going to compare them to see that there are no additional files in Supabase compared to Google Drive. So let's give you a quick example. Let's say that there are 10 files in Supabase, but there are only 5 files in Google Drive. Well, that probably means that somebody deleted 5 files from Google Drive, and therefore we need to find those files and delete the ones that were deleted, and then leave the 5 that are still on there. So again, this is just more data integrity, making sure that what's in Google Drive is equivalent with what is in Supabase. So now let's go ahead and go through all of these steps just to make sure it's set up. And then I'll show you how it actually works. And then I'll go through node by node and explain how it works. So first of all, let's just go ahead and set up this Google Gemini chat model. So double click on there. It's red because you guys have probably not already set up your credential. I have, so it's going to finish itself, but going to click on create new credential. Now, once you've done that, it's going to ask for an API key. Now, your API key is just going to be, you're going to need to go to a website called Google AI Studio. So this is what Google AI Studio looks like. And here you can scroll up over here and click on Get API Key. Now, for me, I've already created an API key. And basically all that you would do is you would click on Create API Key. Perfect. And then you would click on here. And then I have created plenty of projects, but if you don't have a project, you might have to click. It should say something like create a Google Cloud project. So you would just click on that and then you'll be able to create your API key. Okay. So once you select one of these, it'll just say create API key and it'll put it on the screen and you just copy it. So for example, I can just copy this right here. I don't want to click on it because it'll bring it up, but basically just copy it and then bring it over to n8n and you just paste it here. And once you've done that, you would hit save and then it would save. So I already have a bunch, so I'll just leave it. That's fine. And then for the model, we're going to choose Gemini 2.5 Flash Lite. Okay. Now the reason for that is it's extremely fast, but it's also extremely accurate. So this is the model that I found performs the best. That's perfect. And now that we've set that up, we can actually go over here. I believe this uses the same exact credential, so we don't have to do anything extra. So yeah, it does use the same exact credential, so that's perfect. And the model looks perfect, so it would just be text embedding. That's correct. Now that is completely done. All right, next we need to set up Google Drive. So go ahead and click on Google Drive. If you haven't set this up already, it's going to ask you to set up a credential. Now, I've already set up mine, but you just need to click on create new credential and set that up. I've already done a video on this, so go ahead and click on the video linked above to get that set up. It takes about 3 minutes. Cool. Now, once that is done, we need to click on folder from the list, and then we need to choose our folder. So the folder that I've created for this project is called Supabase. And basically, if you go to my Google Drive, you can see that I've created a folder called Supabase. And this is where I will go to basically create some documents and put some information there for my company information. Back to n8n, this looks completely set up. Now, same thing for this Google Drive node, double click in, set the credential to your correct one. And then from the list, it's going to be Supabase. Perfect. Now that is done. It looks like we have some more Google Drive nodes, so we'll just go ahead and finish them right real quick. So Google Drive, choose your credential. This one's going to be, that's correct. I'm not going to change that. And then over here, Google Drive, same thing. And here it's asking for it from the list, and this is going to be Supabase. That looks good. So remember, you can hit save just to save your progress. So as you can see, it looks like everything is done except for these Supabase nodes. So that's saying that we need to set up Supabase. So go ahead and double click on this one. And here it's saying that we need to create a new credential. So try that. And here it's saying we need to find a host and a service role secret. So to get these, we're going to need to go to supabase.com. Supabase.com. This is what it's going to look like. And then you will just hit start your project or sign up or whatever. So since I've already signed up, I'm going to hit dashboard to log into mine. Perfect. Now I'm going to click on the settings gear over here for the project settings. And here it's going to show me API keys. So go ahead and click on API keys. And here, as you can see, it's telling me my service role. So you can actually go over here and click reveal, copy that, and then go back over to n8n and paste in the service role secret. Okay. All right, so now that we have our service role secret, all that there's left to get is the host URL. So go ahead and go back over to Supabase. Now from here, we need to click on Data API on the left. And then as you can see, we have our URL right here. So go ahead and click copy. Go back over to n8n, paste. Then you can go ahead and hit save. And as you can see, it says connection tested successfully. Perfect. So now that that is done, we would just need to select our table name. Now, I should not have any table names yet because we haven't created the table. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do that now. So go back over to Supabase. And here on the left side, we're going to see something called SQL Editor. Click on that. Now, as you can see, there should be a place to paste some code. I'm going to give you the code right now. So you're going to have to get this from my school community. Just find the post and get it. It is going to be called Supabase SQL Editor Code. So open that up. And basically what this is saying is it's saying to download the extension. After that, it's going to create a table called knowledge base. And after that, it's going to create a function called match documents, which makes sense, right? So we need to create a table that is going to contain our knowledge base. And then we're going to create a function that is going to be needed to find the documents. Perfect. So go ahead and click Control A, Control C, then go back over to Supabase and paste it into the code editor. And go over here and click Run. Run this query. Success, no rows returned. That's perfect. So now in order to check that it created the table, click on Table Editor. As you can see, it created a table called Knowledge Base. So click on that. It says that it's unrestricted because we have RLS disabled. We can just enable it real quick. That's fine. Click Enable. That just makes it a little bit more secure, but it doesn't really matter. Perfect. So now that that is set up, we have a table called knowledge base, and we also have our function that was called match documents. So we should go back to n8n and just make sure that's correct. So the table name is called knowledge base. Actually, let's make sure that updates. So I'm going to click out and then click back in to see if it updates. Yeah, there we go. So now we're going to click on knowledge base. Perfect. And then the query name is called match documents. So that's also good. That's done. Awesome. So go on to the next Supabase node, double click. Make sure that we're using the Supabase credential. Good. The table name, that's correct. And everything else is fine. Perfect. Now click on this one. Choose the correct credential. It's going to be from the list. We're going to choose knowledge base. And the query name is going to be match documents. That's correct. Cool. Now down here, click on this node. Choose the correct credential. The table name is going to be knowledge base, and that looks correct. Perfect. Finally, we're going to choose this last one. Credential. Table name is knowledge base, and that looks correct. All right, so now that our workflow is all set up, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to break it up into 3 different workflows. Now, the reason for this is because when we set the workflow to active, it needs to be actively listening to new information. If we have 3 different triggers on the same workflow, it's not going to work. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take this, then I'm going to cut it out. Well, I need to include that Google Drive node. So I'm going to hit Control X to cut it out, and I'm going to open a new workflow and paste it in. Perfect. And now I can just hit save and hit activate. Perfect. So now this is set up. Remember, this is going to be responsible for automatically triggering and finding the files that are basically mismatched in order to delete the vectors Supabase database. Now go back to n8n, and I'm going to need to get the second part of the workflow, which is down here. And this part of the workflow is responsible for automatically tracking changes that are being made to the Google Drive in order to update the company information into Supabase. So I'm going to hit Control C this time because it's actually sharing this node, so I don't want to get rid of that. So Control C, create a new workflow, Control V to paste, and that looks perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and click save and activate. Perfect. Now go back over to n8n, and now we're going to delete this part. because we don't need it anymore. Perfect. And so now this is actually its own workflow as well. So we're going to go ahead and click active. So in order to test this, we need to go ahead and create some files in Google Drive. So I'm going to go over to Supabase, and now I'm going to click on new, and I'm going to create a new Google Doc. Here I'm going to name it I'm going to name it company information updated. Okay. And then I'm going to get the information from here, which I have made a note of. So go back over here, right here. Perfect. So this is just some basic stuff. It's company name, company purpose, and just some other stuff. Okay. So this is going to be the correct version. Now I'm going to go back over to Supabase, or no, go back over to Google Drive, and then I'm going to create a new file. And this file is going to be called company information outdated. Okay. And I'm going to paste that information back in, but I'm going to change it so that it's incorrect. So now that that is done, all that I need to do is I need to go back to the n8n workflow. And I need to basically see that it ran and automatically updated the Supabase database. So now we're going to go back to Supabase. And as you can see, it literally just updated before our eyes, right? So the first chunk is right here. It's called company name, Ajax Agent Systems. That's going to be the outdated version. And then this one is called company name, Apex Agent Systems. And that's going to be the updated version. And as you can see here, it has some metadata, such as the file ID. And this is going to be what is important for comparing and contrasting the files from Google Drive with Supabase in order to decide which one needs to get deleted. So now we have basically confirmed that this part of the workflow works perfectly. Now we need to go ahead and test the second part of the workflow, which is this part. Now this part is for deleting, and it only happens every 15 minutes. So in order to make sure that works, we might just have to hit execute step, but it's the same exact thing. So in order to test this, I'm going to go back over to Google Drive, and then I'm going to delete the file called company information outdated. So go ahead and go over here, click move to trash. Move to trash. Perfect. That just give it some time to load. That should be done. Now, if we go over to our workflow here, we're going to just hit execute workflow. And so that way we don't have to wait 15 minutes. So perfect. So this is exactly what happened. It got the rows from Supabase, and then it got the rows from the Google Drive. And from those, it's able to identify the file IDs. So, and then after that, it puts the file IDs into this compare datasets node. And here it's able to identify the file IDs that are different. And then the file IDs that are different, it's going to be able to basically delete them. So if you go over to the Supabase, we can see that it just automatically updated right in front of us, right? So it just automatically deleted the line that said Ajax Agent Systems because that belonged to the file that I just deleted from my Google Drive. So as you can see, this workflow is also working perfectly. All right. Now, the last part of the workflow that we need to test is going to be the RAG part of it. Now, in order to test this, we're going to need to set up our VAPI webhook and hook it up with a tool that we will need to create for our assistant. Now, if you remember in our last video, we created the appointment setter using 4 tools. And now we need to add one more tool that's going to be responsible for this part of the workflow. So double click on this webhook, go to production URL, and click on this URL to copy it. Now we need to go back over to VAPI. And now let me ask you this question. What do we need to do now? I'm going to give you a couple seconds to see if you can figure it out. The answer is we need to create a new tool, and then we're going to pass in that URL into the server URL because that's going to be the connection between VAPI and n8n. So we're going to go over to tools, and then we're going to create a new tool. It's going to be a custom tool. Now this tool is going to be called get user documents, which makes sense because it's going to help with getting the user documents. So now go down to server URL and paste in the URL that we just copied. Save. Now notice this URL is different from the URL that we've been using in our other tools because it's linking to a different workflow. Perfect. So now all that there's left to do is to fill in the parameters. So This one's pretty simple. We just need to add a property that will be responsible for allowing the agent to find or to basically query the database to get company information. So obviously the easiest way to do that is click on Visual Editor and then go to the files that you have downloaded, which will be called Get User Documents tool. And then Control C to copy, Control A, Control V to paste, apply. And then if we uncheck, we can just see that it's literally just collecting a query. Pretty simple stuff. Now we will hit save. Perfect. So now we have created our tool. Now I'm going to ask you another question. What do you think we're going to do next? So after we create the tool, we need to go over to the assistants and we need to give the tool to the assistant. So scroll down to the tool section. And then we need to click here and give it the tool that we just created. So hit publish to save. And now that we've given it all the tools that it needs, we need to go up to our system prompt and update the system prompt so that it knows how and when to use the Get User Documents tool. And the easiest way to do that is to just ask our AI assistant to do that. So go ahead and hit Control A, Control C to copy. Go over to Google AI Studio or whatever AI you like to use. I like to use this one. So I'm going to create a new chat. And like I say, I always like to set it to 0.4. That's perfect. Now, all I need to do is create a prompt that will hopefully get the information that I need. So here I'm going to say, give me the updated system prompt so that it, we'll say it smartly uses the Get User Documents tool in order to search the company documents for factual information or things like services provided or other company factual information. But the agent should also be smart enough to know not to use the tool when asked general questions that are not related to the company. Perfect. Here is the current system prompt. Change as little as possible to implement the new functionality. Okay. And I'm just going to let it run and we'll see what we get. So, all right, so now it is done loading. Let's go ahead and see what it got. So here we go. It says current time. That's fine. Honestly, I'll just copy it all and then we'll read it inside of there. So paste, publish, publish. All right, so it's saying that that's all the same. Where is it different? That's the question. Here, it's saying, do not deviate unless answering a direct factual question as outlined below. So it does look like it implemented some changes so that it could use the Get User Documents tool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually search Get User Documents to see exactly where it's using it. So it says factual question handling. If the user asks a factual question about the business, such as services offered, location, hours, policies, you must use the Get User Documents tool to find the answer. Honestly, that sounds like it would work. I'm willing to just give that a try. That looks fine. So we're just one final check to make sure everything's working. What we did was we created actually the assistant was already created, but we created a new tool called Get User Documents. After that, we went ahead and hooked it up to the assistant by going down to the tools tab and feeding it in. So as you can see, there's 5 total tools, which is correct. Finally, we need to make sure that it's actually named correctly. So it needs to be called Get User Documents. Perfect. Now the next thing is go over to n8n to just make sure that the VAPI webhook was correct. So if you remember, this is the correct path. That's right. And everything else should be properly set up. That looks fine. So now last thing to do is just hit save and then make sure that the workflow is set to active. Now I'm going to go ahead and give it a call and see what happens. So go over to VAPI, go to phone numbers, and now we can go ahead and call that phone number right here.
Thank you for calling the Glow Clinic. This is Chloe. How may I help you today? To best assist you, could you let me know if you are a new or an existing patient?
Hey, Chloe. By the way, what is your company name?
I apologize for the confusion. Our clinic is called the Glow Clinic. Now, to continue, are you a new or an existing patient?
Hey, Chloe, what is the purpose of your company?
I'm sorry, but can I need assist with specific information about the Glow Clinic services?
All right, so after doing some testing, I found that the issue was since I was telling it that the business name was the Glow Clinic, but then here I was saying that the company name was something else, it was getting really confused. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to pass this over to the AI assistant to basically update the company information with some information that actually makes sense for our clinic. So go ahead and go back over here. Here is an example of company information for my personal company. I need you to give me updated company information similar to this, but for the med spa clinic that we were talking about, which is named the Glow Clinic. Okay. So yeah, we'll just let that run. All right, now it looks like it is done loading. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this information, go back over to the company documents and hit paste. Perfect. Now it should automatically update, but it does take a while to update. So I'd honestly rather just do it immediately and get it done. So I'm gonna hit execute workflow. It worked, perfect. I'm gonna hit refresh. And there we go. So here it created the chunks. And remember, if the company information is long enough, then it will need to create a second chunk so that it becomes easier to find that information. So this is completely normal, and this is exactly what we want to happen. So that's perfect. Now all that there's left to do is to test it one more time to see if it's able to get the factual information. So here we go.
Thank you for calling the Glow Clinic. This is Chloe. How may I help you today? To best assist you, could you let me know if you are a new or an existing patient?
Yeah, hey Chloe, before we do that, can you just tell me what the purpose of the Glow Clinic is?
The Glow Clinic is a premier physician led med spa focused on personalized, non surgical aesthetic treatment. Our mission is to enhance your natural beauty and boost your confidence through safe, effective, and scientifically backed procedures. Now, to continue, are you a new or existing patient?
I'm good. That's all I needed. Thanks. Bye. All right, so as you can see, just by making those little changes, we were able to implement this rag into the agent. So it was really simple. Let's do a quick recap of what we did. So the first thing that we did was we basically set up the entire workflow. Now, if you remember, it was really big at the start, but we ended up cutting it down into 3 different pieces. So the first piece was this one, actually, this one. This one was responsible for automatically deleting files in the Supabase database whenever a file was deleted in the Google Drive. Okay. Now, the second part of the workflow is this one, which is responsible for automatically updating the information in the Google Drive. And finally, the last piece is the RAG agent, which basically is a series of webhooks that collects data from the get user documents tool, and then it passes it into this AI agent, which basically tries to understand what the query is looking for. And then it'll basically look for the documents in the Supabase vector store in order to get the right information. Now, once it has synthesized that information, it's going to send it back over to our AI agent so that it can read you back that information. Okay. And the thing is, I didn't change any information regarding the appointment setting. So, I'm pretty sure 99% sure that's going to work, which is why I didn't bother testing it, but that's literally perfect. So literally in this video, you just saw me explain how to set up RAG for answering frequently asked questions for your company. It's really easy to do. And that actually concludes section 2, the clinic expert. Part 3 of building the ultimate AI agent for my students. Today, I'm going to be covering the seamless handoff, how to do live call transfer, and SMS confirmation. Let's go ahead and get started by going over to n8n. Now, from our last session, you know that this is going to be what the n8n workflow looks like. And as you can see from here, currently, when we're booking the appointment, we're going straight to a VAPI webhook that sends the confirmation back to the AI agent immediately without sending SMS confirmation. So what we can do is between these two steps, we can actually add a node in order to send an SMS text confirmation to the client. All right. So go ahead and hover your mouse over this line here. And that's going to allow you to add a new node in between. So click on the plus sign. We're going to search for the Twilio node. And we're going to send an SMS message. So click on this one. All right, so once you're on here, it's going to ask you to set up a new credential. So I've already done a tutorial on this. I'm going to link to that over here. All right. Next, we're going to send an SMS and the operation is going to be send. And the from number is just going to be your phone number from your Twilio dashboard. And this will only work once you get it verified. So make sure you do get verified using the tutorial. So it's just going to be whatever your phone number is. Okay. All right. So the to node is going to be the information that's coming from the VAPI AI voice agent. And I've already gotten that over here. So go ahead and download it from my school community. It's going to be called Twilio send SMS to code. So open that up. It's just going to be this really simple stuff. So it's basically saying from the VAPI webhook, we're going to find the customer number. Okay. So you just place that in. As you can see, it's green saying that this is the correct phone number. Okay. Now, after that, we're going to need to say what the SMS message actually needs to be. And so what I'm using for that is something that looks like this. So go ahead and download the Twilio message code JSON file. It's going to look something like this. I'll show you. So it's going to say, hi, name. So Anthony in this case, your consultation. Where's that saying? So your service name. So in this case, my service name is consultation with the owner name. So the clinic staff is confirmed for, in this case, the book appointment start time is going to be Thursday, August 4th at 1 p.m. See you then. So again, this is just some code that ultimately will result in basically what you want to be sending to your client. And as you can see, it works perfectly. So that's completely done. Just go ahead and hit save to save that. All right, so we just covered SMS confirmation. Only thing left to do is talk about live call transfer. So how do we do that? Go ahead and go back over to the VAPI assistant. Now, this assistant is basically what we've been using in the previous two parts. Now, what I do want to do is I want to go to the model and actually change it to GPT-5 mini because I've done some more testing and that seems to be by far the best model so far. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Cool. And then go ahead and scroll down a little bit. Everything else is the same. Tools, looking good. Perfect. Now, for the live call transfer function, it's actually really simple. It's already predefined. So go ahead and click on predefined functions. We've pre-built functions for common use cases. You can enable them and configure them below. So as you can probably imagine, this function is very popular. So VAPI has already built it for us and all we need to do is basically just hit a button. Okay. So click on that and it says enable end call function or dial keypad. Now we're not going to use any of these for now. So we're just going to skip that. What we are interested in is this section called forwarding phone number. And if you hover over here, it'll just tell you exactly what it is. This phone number will be used to transfer call from the assistant. So basically what it's saying is we just enter in a phone number that we want to basically give it in order to call it. And then we need to change the assistant prompt just a little bit saying, okay, well, if you encounter a question that you can't answer, or if the client asks to speak to a human, then go ahead and use the forwarding phone number tool and go ahead and forward that phone number. So I'm going to go ahead and enter the number here. So all right, so once you've entered that number, go ahead and go back up to the system prompt because we're just going to have to do a little bit of editing to make sure that our agent knows how to use this tool in order to transfer the call. So the easiest way to do that is honestly by using AI. So go ahead and go to your favorite AI. I'm going to go to Google AI Studio. I like to change the temperature to 0.4, and I'm going to say something like, I am working on the transfer call function for my VAPI AI voice agent. I just enabled the forwarding phone number predefined function in the VAPI dashboard. Also, I have given it the phone number that I want to transfer calls to. Now I need your help to update the system prompt so that the agent knows how to use the transfer call function properly. Keep everything else the same as much as possible. Here is my current system prompt. Triple check for accuracy. So as you know, I just like to write a really nice prompt and also tell it to triple check it for accuracy, just to make sure that it's 100% perfect and that I don't need to do so much debugging. It's much faster to just type this for 5 seconds than having to spend time testing that. So, all right, so it looks like the AI has finished processing that prompt. So here's what it says. I have updated your system prompts to include a new human handoff call transfer principle. And that should basically work. So let's go ahead and check out the prompt. Everything looks good. What else does it say? Here we go. It says something about human handoff call transfer. Your primary goal is to handle requests yourself. However, if a caller explicitly asks to speak to a human or presents a situation clearly outside your scope, you must transfer the call. That sounds pretty good. So we'll just go ahead and test that real quick. So copy, go over to VAPI, paste, publish. All right. So now what did we do? First of all, we went over to n8n. We added a node called the Twilio node that will allow us to send SMS confirmations to the client's phone number. After that, we went over to VAPI. We went down to the predefined functions, and then we entered in a forwarding phone number. After that, we went up to the system prompt, and then we updated the system prompt to basically tell the agent that it now has the ability to forward calls to a live human. All right. So all that there's left to do is to test it. And in order to do that, we need to go over to phone numbers, and we just need to make sure that this is properly set up. So scroll down to assistant and make sure that it's properly assigned to this phone number. Otherwise, when you call it, nothing's going to work. Okay. So once that's done, go ahead and hit save. And also go back to n8n and make sure that the workflow is set to active. Otherwise, it's not going to know how to set appointments. Okay. And so basically the function that I'm trying to test today is the transfer call function. I don't really care about booking the appointment because that's almost certainly going to work. So let's go ahead and call that phone number.
Thank you for calling the Glow Clinic. This is Chloe. How may I help you today? To best assist you, could you let me know if you are a new or an existing patient?
I need to speak to a human.
Transferring the call now.
All right, well, basically I just called my other phone, and as you can see, it was able to transfer that call. So super simple stuff. Part 4 of building the ultimate AI agent for my students. Rescheduling and cancellations for your AI voice agent. Now, this is going to be pretty complicated, so make sure to get your second monitor, and let's go through it step by step. Real quick, I just want to show you what our agent looked like last time, which is right over here. And by the end of today, this is what's going to look like on the right over here. So as you can see, there's going to be a lot of new tools being added that's going to enable the agent to know how to do things like rescheduling and cancellation. So what do we need in order to do rescheduling and cancellation? Well, first of all, we need a way to identify the client. And the best way to do this is by using their unique phone number in a Google Sheet. So once we've created the Google Sheet with the client's information, then we can get the information from the Google Sheet in order to get their name. Now, once we have their name, we can actually greet them using their name in the first message. So that's actually really cool. And I'll show you that during the demo. And finally, once we have their name and their phone number, we can use that information to find their appointments in the Google Calendar. after we have their appointments, we can do other functions such as rescheduling or canceling easily. And finally, after we do any actions such as rescheduling and canceling, of course, we can add a Twilio node for sending SMS confirmations. So real quick, I'll just show you that in the n8n workflow. So this is what we had before. This is just for basic appointment setting. And this is what we have after. Now, as you can see, what we're doing here is we're basically adding a Google Sheet node so that once the appointment is booked, we're actually saving their name and their phone number into a Google Sheet. And that, again, like I said, once we save it into that Google Sheet, that's where we're going to be fetching their name and their phone number in order to do things like the rescheduling and canceling over here. So this is going to be the rescheduling route right here. We're going to find their events in the Google Calendar, then we're going to reschedule them, and then we're going to send them a SMS text confirmation. And then we're going to tell the VAPI agent that it was completed. And this bottom one is for the cancel appointment route, where we're going to do pretty much the same thing, except we're going to find the events like normal, but instead of rescheduling, we're just going to cancel it. And then we're also going to send an SMS message. So it looks complicated, but it's actually really simple. And I'm going to walk you through step by step how to do that right now. So let's start with the first thing, which is basically right here, adding the Google Sheet node so that we can put the information into a Google Sheet and then fetch it later. So actually, before we do that, we need to actually create one. Now, I've already created one here. All you need to do is go to Google Sheets and then create a new sheet. Doesn't matter what you call it. I called it Clinic Contacts. And then I didn't change the name of the sheet, so it's just called Sheet 1. Okay, so remember the name of the document is called Clinic Contacts and the sheet is Sheet 1 in my example. So let's go back over here. So in order to add the function of saving it into a Google Sheet, all you need to do is click on the plus sign in between these two. And then we're going to look for a Google Sheet node. Here it's going to be append or update row in sheet. What does that mean? Append means adding and update means updating. So in this case, we're going to be either adding if it doesn't exist, or if it does exist, then update it. So it's going to be, yep, that's correct. The document's going to be from the list and it's going to be Clinic Contacts. The sheet, as I was saying, is going to be Sheet 1. Perfect. It's going to map each column manually. That's fine. Column to match on. So here we want to pick the one that's going to be more unique. Otherwise, we're going to be picking the one that's duplicated and that's not going to be correct. So it's going to be phone because their phone number is more unique than their name. Okay. So the phone number is just going to be the code that comes from the VAPI webhook. So I don't know what it is. You just need to do some testing and then pull it over from the left side to get it here. Okay. And their name, same thing. It's going to be from the VAPI webhook and then you just plug it in. Now, I can just show you real quick because I've already done it, but the way that you would do it is you would just do a quick test and then pull the information over. But the answer is going to be this. It's just from the tool call, it's just automatically going to be there. Okay. And the same thing here, the tool call is going to collect the client name, and that's why it's going to be there. So I'm not even going to do it because I'm just going to give you this code in my school community, so you can just download that after. But I'm trying to explain to you so that you know how to figure it out and how to actually do it yourself. Okay. So that's actually just done. As you can see, it looks perfect. Now we need to do the next step, which is actually we need to remove one of our tools because last time we were using a tool called Handle Existing Client, but that tool actually doesn't do anything except for call 3 new tools. It was something like reschedule, cancel, and things like that, right? So instead of having a tool that calls other tools, it's better to just delete that tool and then add the tools individually. Like as you can see here, I've removed the Handle Existing and I've instead added a couple new tools such as it's called the Lookup Client by Phone, which is where, as you can see, we're getting the information from the Google Sheet. And then I also have 2 more routes for rescheduling and canceling the appointment. So let's go ahead and go over here. I'll show you how to do that. It's just going to be Handle Existing Client. Just click on this trash can and it'll dump it. Okay. And like I said, we're going to add 3 more routes. So I'm just going to copy this because I already know that this is the code for getting the name of the function. So value 1, and I'm just going to create 3 routes to make it quick. So as you can see, I added 3 routes and is equal to, it's going to be the name of the tool. So the first one's called Lookup Client by Phone. Just got to rename the output to the same thing. reschedule appointment. This is going to be cancel appointment. All right, that looks good. So as you can see, I've gotten rid of the handle existing client tool and I've added the 3 new routes. It is kind of messy because of that, but basically, as you can see, I'll get rid of that. There's 3 new routes, and all we need to do is add the routes for them. So here, for lookup client by phone, what we're gonna do, we're gonna need to get the information from the Google Sheet, right? So go ahead and click on this. It's going to be from the Google Sheet. And here we need to, let's see, it's going to be getting the row in the sheet, right? Document's going to be clinic contacts, and this one's going to be sheet 1. And the filter that we're looking for is we're basically filtering for the phone number, right? Because we don't want to get all the information from the Google Sheet. We only want to get the information that is related to the caller's specific phone number. So to get that, again, you just go over here because I already built it. But it's just going to be the customer's phone number. So go over here. Column's going to be the phone number, and it's just going to be the phone number. Perfect. Now that it's done. And also we're just going to add another webhook, and the webhook basically says, I'll just open that up. Now this code for this webhook basically says, after we get the rows in the sheet, it's going to return the client's name and the client's phone number. So it's going to say, here's the client's name and here's the client's phone number. And it's going to give that back to the AI voice agent. And that's how they're going to know what the client's name is for later when they go ahead and reschedule or cancel appointments. All right, so next we can work on rescheduling appointment and canceling appointment. So as we said, all we need to do is use some Google Calendar nodes in order to get the events that are related to the person's phone number, and then add another one to either schedule or cancel. So let's go ahead and search for Google Calendar. And this one's basically going to get many events because we want to grab all of their events. So it's going to be event, get many, and the calendar is going to be this. Okay. And then here we just need to get all events that start from now to sometime in the future. So I just have some code here that's basically going to say, well, we're going to get all events that are between now and 90 days in the future. And if you need this longer or shorter, you can just change this to whatever you want. Okay. And so basically that's just going to get all their events that relate to that person. So in order to filter, we need to add an option that says query. And the point of this query is we don't really need to get every single event. We only need to get events that pertain to a certain person, right? So here we would just add the code that pertains to the person's phone number. So I'm just going to get that from my example over here. As you can see, here's the code that basically grabs the customer's number from the VAPI webhook. So paste that, come over here and do that. Okay. All right. So once that's done, all we need to do is add another Google Calendar node. This one's going to be responsible for rescheduling or updating the event. So go ahead and type in Google Calendar. And here you can say it's giving us an option to update the event. So that's exactly what we want. Just choose your calendar. And here it's asking for the event ID. So actually in our previous node, that's where we were fetching many different event IDs, right? So all we need to do is get some code that will result in the event ID that we fetched in the last option. So that code is basically going to be equal to this, where we're basically just finding the event to reschedule. And then we're using the JSON just means the last node. And then ID means the ID. So we're getting the code, we're getting the IDs from the last node in order to pass into this node. Okay. So it's going to be this. And then here we're updating the fields because we need to pick a new end date and a start date, right? So it's just going to be start date. Now the start date is going to be, it's going to be the information that we get in the new tool call. So when we're rescheduling, we're going to be asking the client, what time is going to be your new start time? Okay. And then depending on how long our meeting is, we're just going to add 15 minutes or 30 minutes to that in order to calculate the end time. So the start time is just going to be something that looks like this. Make sure you click expression so that it actually pastes correctly. So this is going to be the new start time is what I need actually. So new start time here. All right, and then we're going to get the new end time. Perfect. So we're just going to add another field. This one's going to be called end. And we're just going to paste that in. Oh, make sure to click expression. Otherwise, it won't let you use code. Okay, perfect. So that's done. And then next, we just need to create a Twilio node so that we're sending the confirmation. So go ahead and click another add. We're going to add a Twilio node. It's going to be send an SMS. Choose your credential, enter in your phone number. 2 is going to be some code for the customer's number. And then the message is going to be some code that I wrote, but basically it looks like this. And it's basically saying that, well, in this case, let's just say, Anthony, this is a confirmation that your appointment with the Glow Clinic has been successfully rescheduled for whatever new time. And that's it. So, Anthony, this is a confirmation that your appointment with the Glow Clinic has been successfully rescheduled for Friday, August 15th, or whatever it is. Okay. So that's pretty simple. I'm not even going to fill it out from now because I know that you guys know how to do that. So let's just go ahead and finish the cancel appointment route real quick. So again, it's just going to be 2 Google Calendars. Honestly, we could just copy this because it's literally the exact same thing. So go over here, and here we're going to add one that is called another Google Calendar. But the point here is, instead of updating an event, since we need to cancel the appointment, it's going to be deleting the event. But setup's literally the exact same thing. We're just going to get the event ID using that code on the previous node and just pass that in. And that's basically it. And we're just going to be deleting it. So that's fine. Let's check that real quick. Yeah, we don't need to add any additional options because all we're doing is deleting it. Perfect. And again, we're just going to add a Twilio. So I'm just going to copy it and paste it over here. The only important thing here is just knowing the code here that basically results in what you want it to say. So in here it's saying, Anthony, this is a confirmation that your appointment with the Glow Clinic has been successfully canceled. If you need to rebook, please call us back at any time. So that's also pretty simple. If you have the code here, you'll be able to get that. Okay. So that's it. And then obviously we're just going to add some more webhooks here in order to push some information back to the AI voice agent so that it knows how everything went. But usually it's going to be a successful interaction, which is why we just have one. If during your testing you figure out that it's failing often, then obviously you would have to add another one that is responsible for the failure. But for now, for simplicity, we'll just have one for each. Okay. So that is it. Now this is all done, like I said earlier. So I'll just get rid of this. And we'll just use this for actual testing. So make sure to hit save and set it to active. And I'm just going to get the production URL. Well, it actually looks like it's the exact same thing, so I don't need to change it. So now, once we're done with the n8n workflow, go ahead and go back to VAPI. And this is where we're going to be making the changes to the tools. Then we're going to need to give the tools to the assistant. Then we need to update the system prompt so that it knows how to use the new tools. Okay. So go ahead and go over to tools, and we're going to delete the handle existing client tool because, as I said earlier, we don't need a tool that calls 3 other tools. Let's just get rid of it and add the 3 tools. So delete tool, we're going to create a new custom tool. This one's going to be called lookup client by phone. And as you know, the easiest way to do this is to just get the code from my school community. But if you're wondering how I write this stuff, it's just using logic, honestly. So I'll just show you real quick. So apply and check this to check what it looks like when using no code. So remember what I said earlier is, when we're looking at the client by phone, we're basically looking for a way to identify the client. And what's the best way to identify the client? Well, we could use things like email. We could use things like phone number. We could use things like their birthday, social security number, stuff like that, right? But obviously the easiest one out of those is going to be the phone number because we're already getting that from VAPI. And if we use things like a name, it can get that wrong, or it can get the name of somebody else, and that's just going to mess it up. Email is not going to be great because it's just really long. Social security or birthday, that's personal information, so we want to stay away from that as much as possible. So here, as you can see, we're just getting the identifying information for the client, which is going to be their 10-digit phone number. Okay, so that's perfect. All right, go ahead and hit save. Then we're going to create some more tools. This one's going to be called reschedule appointment. So let's get the tool, get the code over here. Control A, Control C, Control V, apply, and check. So here, client name is actually already going to be fetched when we use the lookup client by phone tool. So it's actually not going to need to ask for the client's name a second time, which is really nice for reducing friction. And, again, we're trying to make it as human as possible. If we already have their name, we don't need to ask for their name again. So next, we're going to ask them for a new start date and time, which makes sense because they're going to be like, okay, well, my last appointment was at August 10th, but I need to change it to sometime in the future. Let's just say August 15th. So that's how we're going to get that's how we're going to get the new start date and time. Perfect. Let's show you the code for that real quick. It's just literally the same exact thing as the book appointment tool that we used earlier. So, and then as I said earlier, the new date and time is just going to be literally some math that the AI agent is going to do on their own. It's just going to be equal to the meeting duration. So in this case, 15 minutes. Okay. So go ahead and save. Custom tool is going to be, go back over here, cancel appointment. So cancel appointment. Parameters. Perfect. So here, all we need to do is get the client name. And again, we already have the client name from the lookup client by phone. But the reason why we need this in this tool call is because if we go back over to n8n, you'll be able to see that in this route, well, basically we're going to pass information here, right? And then it's going to go over here and it's going to route to the cancel appointment. And then once we go over here, what information do we need in order to find the client's information? Well, it's going to need their phone number and it's going to need their name, right? So actually, it doesn't even look like we need their name, which is fine. It doesn't matter because all we really need is we need to route it down here and then it'll handle it by itself because apparently it already has the customer's number, but we don't even need their name. But like I said, it doesn't matter. So yeah, that's fine. So save. Now remember, we currently have not entered anything for the server URL, so we can just grab that from our other tools and paste that right in. So get that, and then server URL, paste. Make sure it saves. Perfect. So now that that is done, go ahead and go over to our assistants. Scroll down to the tools tab. And here we're just going to hit select all. And that's going to give it all of our tools. Now, I did do some testing previously and then I deleted the tools. And when you do that, that's when it does something like this. It basically just gets rid of the name and it just leaves the ID. So all you need to do is just uncheck that. And as you can see, it goes away. So yeah, so let's just do a quick check. And it's got the 3 tools that we had before, and then it now has the 3 new tools that we just created. So that looks perfect. Publish to save. All right, so really the last thing that there's left to do is to update the system prompt in order to work with the information that we just passed it. So as you probably know, the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to copy and I'm going to go to my favorite AI. I'll just create a new chat. Temperature is going to be whatever. And the easiest way to do this is just copy all the code from your tools and also copy the workflow from n8n. So go to here and then just hit download and they'll give you that code and then go back over to your LLM and just give it all to it and then write a nice prompt to give you the assistant prompt. So let's see, it's going to be the workflow JSON, the tool JSON. So 1, 2, 3. And this is, I've already written it, so I'm not going to give it that, but basically what you would do is you would get these 4. You would put it in here and you'd be something like, I have attached the workflow JSON and tool JSON for my VAPI AI voice agent. Using this, give me the assistant prompt that would handle the correct conversation flow. Okay, something like that. And then you would hit run. Obviously, you would have to check it and make sure that everything's correct. But I've already done it, and the result that I got was this. So I'll show you there real quick. The result that I got looks like this, and really all it's saying is that as soon as the conversation starts, we're going to be calling the lookup client by phone tool. And the reason for that is we need to get the information from the Google Sheet to see if it's an existing client or not. And if it's an existing client, we can actually say something like, "Thank you for calling the Glow Clinic. Is this Anthony?" Right? And that's a cool way to just show the other person that we're already on top of things and we're, completely proactive. And if it's not an existing client, then we'll just say something normal like, "Thank you for calling the Glow Clinic. This is Chloe. How may I help you today?" Okay. And then based on what they say after that is when we kind of like split into the two different routes. If it's a new client, then we say, "Okay, well, what treatment are you looking for? Have you had that treatment before?" We basically just go through that flow. It's pretty simple. And if it's an existing client, we can say something like, "Okay, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to book a new appointment? Do you want to reschedule or do you want to cancel?" And then based on each of those, we're just going to use a different tool. Like I said earlier in n8n, we're just going to use a different tool and that's going to allow us to do whatever it is that we need to do. So it should be making a lot of sense now. It should be pretty simple. If you have any questions, make sure you do ask and I'll make sure you get the help that you need. So, all right, cool. So that's done. All right, so let's see. Just make sure that this is actually pasted in correctly. So yeah, you were Chloe. Proactive recognition, the look up client by phone. So that was great. Yeah, we're gonna look up client by phone. Going to look at the new client journey. Yeah. Check availability, that's correct. If you want to book a new appointment, go ahead and use the check availability and book. That's correct. If you want to reschedule, yeah, perfect. It's going to ask them for a new time, new start time, and then it's going to calculate that. Perfect. And if they need to cancel, it's just going to call the cancel appointment tool and it's going to cancel them. So it's extremely robust. And I've already tested it once and it already worked. So I'm just going to do that right now and just show you that it works. So remember, before you actually test, you just need to make sure that everything's set up correctly. So it's something like make sure your assistant prompt is written, make sure you go down to the tools to make sure that it's passed to the assistant, then go over to your tools and make sure that each of your tools has the right webhook that you got from n8n. So I'm just going to do that right now. Yep. It's like it's all hooked up. They should all still be the same. Perfect. All right. And finally, you need to go to phone numbers and make sure that you have your correct phone number. And then scroll down to assistant and make sure that the assistant is passed into the inbound phone number. Okay. And finally, go back to n8n, make sure that you have saved the workflow and then make sure you set it to active. And that's all you need to do. And now we are ready to call and test. So actually, let's go over and check out our calendar. So right now I have an appointment at 10 a.m. Okay. So I'm going to ask it to reschedule to another day. Um, I'll ask it to reschedule to something like 12 p.m. Okay. And then we can see that and I'll ask it to cancel it and we'll hopefully see that as well. So let's get started.
Thank you for calling the Glow Clinic. Is this Anthony?
Yep.
Welcome back, Anthony. How can I help you today? Are you looking to book a new appointment, or do you need to reschedule or cancel your upcoming one?
Yeah. I'd like to reschedule my appointment.
I can certainly help with that. What new day and time would you like to move your appointment to?
Yeah. I'd like to move it a little later on Monday.
Certainly, I can help move it later on Monday. What time on Monday would you prefer? Please give a specific time, e.g., 3:15 p.m.
Sure. Yeah. I would like to move it to 12 p.m.
I'll bet your appointment has been successfully rescheduled for August 18th, 2025 at 12 p.m. You'll receive an updated confirmation text shortly. Goodbye.
Perfect. Hey, wait. So actually, I want to cancel that appointment completely.
I can help with that. Are you sure you'd like to cancel your upcoming appointment?
Yes, I am sure.
Okay, your appointment has been successfully canceled. If you need anything else, please don't hesitate to call back. Goodbye.
Sure. Bye. Wow, that was amazing. So I actually haven't tested that cancellation. I only tested rescheduling. And as you can see, both were working, right? You saw that it changed the time correctly. And then when I told it to cancel, it just canceled it. So like as you can see, this is working very well. So yeah, everything's working. Part 5 of building the ultimate AI agent for my students. Today, we're going to be going over custom CRM integration. Now, let's go real quick over to our n8n. And as you can see, this is what we had last time. It's already getting pretty complicated with all of these extra nodes, but this is what we're going to have by the end of today. Now, it looks a little bit crazy, but don't worry, I'm going to walk through it step by step with you. So really the only difference between this and this is that here, as you can see, we've added something called a CRM router. Now, what is that for? Well, basically, it's saying that in the past, we've basically been using Google Sheets because it's extremely easy to set up, and we can continue to use that if you want to. But all that we need to do is we can just say, what CRM do you want to use? If you want to use Google Sheets, then we'll just use these routes. If you want to use HubSpot, then we can use these routes. And then if you want to use Go High Level or any other CRM that you want, you just add it here and then you just fill it out. The logic is the exact same. So here, for example, you can see that we're putting the client's information into the database. And then here we're getting that information when we're using the lookup client by phone tool. So pretty much what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be setting up this part of the route, which is for HubSpot specifically. Now, if you want to do this for any custom CRM, you would just replace this with HTTP requests, or if they already have a native n8n node, then you would just do that. But it's literally the exact same thing. And if you guys want me to build it out specifically for your CRM, just let me know in the comments and I'll build it out and I'll update that to the template and then I'll let you guys know that I've updated it. Let's go ahead and get started with the first HubSpot node. So double click on here. All right, so once we're in this node, all we need to do is select the credential. And since we don't have one, we're going to create a new credential. Now, the easiest way to do this is using the app token. It's also the most secure way to do this, so that's how we're going to do it. Now, go over to HubSpot, and once you've signed up, then go ahead and go over to these gear settings, and then click on private apps. So when you're on the screen, go ahead and click on create a private app. We'll just call it n8n real quick, and then we're going to select some scopes. So once we get on this page, the scopes that we need are going to be the ones that deal with deals. So deals, read and write. And also we're going to need contacts, read and write. Now, once that's done, go ahead and hit update and then create the app. And now it's asking it to give us the access token, but make sure that you do not share the access token. And by the way, once you get a client, you're going to actually ask them to create this, and then you're going to ask them to give them your access token so that you can actually use it in n8n, but you don't want to give them your personal access token, okay? Continue creating. All right, here is the token. So just go ahead and copy that and then bring it back to n8n, paste, save. Connection tested successfully. So now you have just learned how to successfully create your credential and connect to HubSpot. So now that that is done, all that there's left to do is to fill out the property name or ID. As you can see, I've already filled out the code for this. Basically what we're doing is we're trying to search for the contact using the contact's phone number. So we're going to go ahead and type phone, and then we're going to select phone number. Perfect. Now, the reason why we're selecting phone number here is because over here, this is basically what's going to happen when we book the appointment. And then after we've booked the appointment, we're going to update or create that contact in HubSpot. So moving on to the next node, we're going to double click here. Credential is going to automatically update. Now, this is already fully completed, but basically what we're doing is we're creating the contact, then we're assigning it an email. This is going to be unique because it's going to be their phone number at a placeholder. And then we're going to set certain properties such as their first name, last name, and their phone number. Next, we're going to create a deal. Now, what is a deal in HubSpot? Well, usually a deal, all it means is how much that lead probably costs. So basically the point here is we're trying to estimate and keep track of how much basically money is coming into our pipeline. So for example, some different options of deals are presentation scheduled, closed, won, appointment scheduled, and so on and so forth. So the one that we'll use is called appointment scheduled. And for the deal type, it's going to be new business because this is going to be a new appointment. So that's fine. Perfect. So now that is actually all done. And really all there's left to do is to test it out to see that the information is being successfully updated into the HubSpot database. All right, so all that we need to do to test it is just make sure we go back and make sure that everything's set up properly. So go ahead and hit save, set it to active, then go back over to VAPI. And then we're just going to walk through it real quick. So this is the assistant. Everything looks fine here. System prompt looks good. Temperature, that's fine. Tools. As you can see, it has a total of 6 tools, which sounds correct. So that's it for that. Cool. Now go over to tools. Looks like we have our 6 tools and they all have the server URL, which looks fine. Okay. Now go back over to phone numbers and then make sure that the assistant is going to be assigned to the phone number. And by the way, one thing that I forgot to mention is we actually have to go back over here and we have to change the variables node in order to tell n8n which CRM we want to test out. So here, currently it's being set to Google Sheets, so we do need to change this. The name would just be equal to whatever the route is. So in this case, it would be HubSpot. So go ahead and just double click on this and then, oh no, this is the wrong one. Go ahead and click on variables and then change the CRM system to be HubSpot. All right, then go ahead and save. And then now I'm going to give that number a call. All right, so after doing some more testing, what I realized that we actually cannot combine these two routes into one single switch node, because what will actually happen is when I was calling the lookup client by phone number, what it was doing is it was actually executing both of these at the same exact time. But that's not what we want, because we only want to book the appointment and we only want to create the contact information when we're booking the appointment, not when we're doing this. So basically what we need to do here is we need to click this trash can. And then this is going to be associated with only the information for booking the appointment, which means that we need to get rid of, let's see. So this is for lookup. This is for booking the appointment. So I need to get rid of this. And then I need to get rid of this. Okay, that looks correct. So then what I need to do is I need to copy this over. And then this is going to be for the lookup client route. So connect here. And then Google Sheets is going to be over here. And then HubSpot is going to be down here, over here. Okay, so let's just check that. I'll clean it up a little bit. So tidy up. Okay, now let's go through this real quick to make sure that the logic's correct. So basically what's going to happen is I'm going to call the number. And when I call the number, what it's going to do is it's going to use the lookup client by phone tool. When it does that, it's going to route through the switch node, and it's going to see that I'm using the HubSpot CRM. So it's going to route the workflow over here, and it's going to search for the contact in the database. Now, since I'm a new client, it's not going to come up with anything. So it's going to recognize that I'm a new client and say, this is Chloe, how may I help you? Instead of, hey, is this Anthony? Okay. And then later on, I'm going to book the appointment, and then it's going to route over here. And then it's going to go into this switch node. And this is when it's going to route based on HubSpot one more time. And then it's going to go into the workflow for creating the contact. That looks great. And now it's time to test it one more time.
Thank you for calling the Glow Clinic. This is Chloe. How may I help you today?
Hey, Chloe, I need to book an appointment.
I'd be happy to help you get started. To begin, what treatment are you interested in today?
I need to get Botox.
Wonderful. Botox is a popular choice. And have you had this type of treatment before? Yes or no?
No.
Perfect. Thank you for that information. The next step is to schedule a complimentary consultation with one of our specialists. Is that something you'd be open to?
Yes.
Excellent. What day would work best for you?
Can you do Friday?
Great. But I have a few times available on Friday, August 15th. Would any of these work for you? I have 8 a.m., 8:30 a.m., and
Noon a.m. is perfect.
Great. I can book that for you. To finalize, what is your full name?
My name is Anthony Ton, T-O-N.
Okay, Anthony Chan. Just to confirm, I have you down for a consultation on Friday, August 15th at 8 a.m. for a consultation. Is that all correct?
That is correct.
Excellent. Your appointment is confirmed. You'll receive a text message with the details shortly. We look forward to seeing you at the Glow Clinic.
All right, so as you can see, it was able to automatically book that appointment, which is easy because we've already proved that it was able to do that. But the important part is now we need to go back to HubSpot, and then we need to hit refresh. And hopefully, if everything works, then it'll be added to our database. So as you can see, there it is. My contact has been added, and my email has been filled out, and my phone number has been added, and everything else. So as you can see, it's working perfectly. Just to recap what we did today is basically we went to n8n, And then we updated our workflow so that basically we could route to different CRMs. And how do we do that? Well, we created a couple of these switch nodes in order to tell the workflow that maybe we want to route to HubSpot, or maybe we want to route to Google Sheets, or maybe Go High Level, or whatever that may be. Okay. And then we did some debugging just to make sure that it was working exactly how it needed to do. And basically in terms of when you're using this template, basically all you need to do is download the template from my school community, import it to your n8n workflow. And then here you would just go into the CRM router, double click in, and then you would just go on here and click add routing rule. And then you would say something like, I don't know, custom CRM. Okay. And once you've done that, then you would just click on the plus sign here and then just implement the same logic that we've been doing, right? So for example, you're going to need something for creating the contact in your database. So here it's creating the contact. If you want to handle deals as well, you would need another node for that. But the logic's literally the exact same thing. It's pretty easy to do. Part 6 of building the ultimate AI agent for my students. The revenue generator. Outbound re-engagement, also known as lead reactivation. Now, if it's one video or one part that you're going to watch from this entire course, this is going to be it. Why do I say that? This agent is going to be the single agent that gets the most return on your investment. In just 10 minutes, you can set this up for your business or for the business that you work for and automatically call hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of thousands of old leads that are just sitting in your database waiting for reactivation. And so I'm going to show you exactly how to do that right now. Go ahead and create a new n8n workflow and then go up here to these three dots, click on import from file, then click on Ultimate Agent Part 6, which you have downloaded from my school community. And then we're just going to go right through it. So the first node is going to be a schedule trigger node because every day it's just going to trigger, and I have it set at 11 a.m. for now. And you can change this to whatever time you want, but generally you're going to want to call any time between 11 a.m. and I think 5 p.m. You don't want to call them outside of business hours. Okay. The next thing is we're going to use a configuration node or a set variable node. And the point of this is basically it makes it really convenient for you to enter things like your VAPI API key, your VAPI phone number ID, and your VAPI assistant ID. And that makes it a lot easier than having to go through the nodes later and writing code by yourself. Perfect. Now, the next thing that we need to do is we need to designate a Google Sheet that is going to be where our client's information is located. And it's going to be how we track if a client has been contacted or not. So go ahead and click on the Google Sheet. Now, if you haven't already, make sure you enter in your Google credential, and then the document's going to be from the list. Now, in my example, I've been using something called Clinic Contacts, and the sheet is also going to be from the list, and it's just going to be sheet 1. Now, we're going to go back to our sheet over here, and as you can see, I've entered in the name, the phone number, and then one example. So you're going to need to add a new column, and this is going to be called call sent. Okay. And the purpose for this column is basically to track which contacts have been called or not, because we don't want to call the same contact 100 times, right? We want to send them one call, and then the next time we run this, we're not going to send them again. We're going to call everybody else. Perfect. So go back over to n8n, and then the filter that we're looking for is we're looking for a filter where the call sent column is equal to blank, because if it's blank, then we'll call them. And then later on, we'll set the value to yes. And that basically means that we're not going to fetch that information anymore. So that's perfect. Next, we're going to use a limit node. And the point of the limit node is that we can limit this to 100 people or 1,000 people or however many, but we don't want to just let it run forever because you're going to call your entire database, and that's not good. So the way that you would change this is you would just open the node and you would say 100. But for my demo, since I'm just using one lead, I'm just going to leave it at 1 for now. Next, we're going to use a loop or a repeat node. And the point of this is basically saying, okay, well, we're going to run through this entire workflow one time. And then after that, we're going to loop back over here and start over from over here. And it's going to do that a total of 100 times or whatever you wrote in here. So in this case, it's going to be 1, but usually it's going to be 100 because that's what I'm using for my actual agency. So now that's done. Next thing to do is look at this HTTP request node. So go ahead and click on that. Now this is actually all done for you because I've just extracted the variables out, but basically it's an HTTP request to VAPI. And this is basically where we're going to say to VAPI, hey, this is our API key. So I want to make a call using this information. So if you look at this JSON code, it's basically saying, okay, well, I have my phone number ID and I have my assistant ID. and I need to make a call to this phone number. So that makes complete sense. So that is all done. Next thing to do is go over to another Google Sheet node. And like I said earlier, this is where we're going to set call sent to yes. So it's gonna choose your document. It's going to be client contacts and sheet 1. And it's going to match based on the phone number, and it's going to match based on this. Okay, perfect. That's all done. And after that is done, we're going to wait 1 minute, because if we don't use this, we're going to literally make thousands of calls at the same exact time. And that's actually not possible, because in VAPI, our concurrency limit, which means how many calls we can have active at the same time, is only 10, which is a lot. But obviously, if you want to add more, it's $10 a month per line. So that's why we use this wait node, is to basically keep us far away from that limit. Okay, so that's actually all done. So we can just go ahead and hit save. And for your purposes, you would set this to active because you want to run every day, like I said earlier, at 11 a.m. But for me, since I'm just doing a test and I'm only using one lead, then I'll just hit execute workflow when I'm ready. So before we do that, we need to go over to VAPI just to make sure that everything is set up. Now, everything should basically be set up. The only difference is you need to go through here and then make some small changes to your assistant prompt. Basically, because as you can see, it's going to say something like, thank you for calling, right? Right here. So it's saying, thank you for calling. Is this Anthony? Is literally what it's going to say. But obviously, we want to change this to something like, this is the Glow Clinic. Is this Anthony? And then we'll change it to like, are you looking to get another appointment or something like that? So literally, in order to do that, just send all your files back to the AI and just say something like, I need to make a cold caller, or I need to make a lead reactivation caller, and give me the updated assistant prompt. I'll just show you how to do that real quick. So go over to your favorite AI. This was my favorite. I'll go over here, set the temperature to 0.4. And then what I'll do is I'll just pass in all of my files and I'll tell it what to do. So literally, I'm just going to give it all these A files. I'll say, I have attached some files for an appointment setter. Now I am working on a lead reactivation activation cold caller, and I need your help to write the updated assistant prompt for the lead reactivation cold caller. Using the files, attached files as context, give me the updated assistant prompt for the lead reactivation cold caller that would make sense with the attached files. Okay? And literally just set that off and wait for it to finish. So while it's doing that, we can just go through real quick and just make sure that everything is set up. Because really, what we need to do is we need to add a new assistant, and we'll call this lead reactivation. Okay? Create the assistant. And the point of this is we have to use the assistant ID, which is actually right here. And if we use this, then it's not going to have the right prompt. So we're just going to create this, and then we're going to set it up real quick. So the model is going to be GPT-5 mini. The first message is going to be assistant speaks first with model generated message. And we're just waiting for the assistant prompt. So temperature is 0.4. Voice, we'll just leave that alone. Tools, we're going to give it all the tools. Perfect. Everything else is done, I believe. Now we're going to go over to tools just to make sure that's all set up. That looks fine because hasn't changed since last time. Phone numbers. Here we actually don't need to set any phone number because this is inbound, and what we're doing is we're making an outbound call from n8n. So we don't even need to set outbound here because we're not making it from VAPI, okay? So that's completely done. What we can do while we're waiting is we can set our configuration variable. So this is the phone number that we're going to be making outbound calls from. And this is the phone number ID. So we can actually copy this real quick, go over to n8n, double click in configuration, and then enter in for the VAPI phone number ID. Okay. Now go back over to assistants, choose the lead reactivation model or the assistant. Now this is going to be the ID right here below the name. So go ahead and copy that a couple times, go back over to VAPI, then replace the assistant ID with that code. Finally, we need to get our VAPI API key. So go over to VAPI. It's going to be a toolbar on the left. It's called VAPI API keys. Click on that. And the key that we want is called private key. So go ahead and click on copy ID. Go back over to n8n and then just hit paste and you're done. All right, so now that that is all done, all we need to do is go back over to our AI to get our assistant prompt. So let's look real quick. It says that this is our updated assistant prompt. It looks like everything's pretty much the same because we're still using the lookup client by phone. That looks great. And here it's saying, hi, am I speaking with Anthony? Great, my name is Chloe and I'm calling from the Glow Clinic. I'm reaching out because you have previously shown interest in our services and I wanted to personally follow up. Is now a good time for a brief chat? That sounds really good, so we're gonna go ahead and use it. So go ahead and paste it, go for VAPI, and then just paste that in and hit publish, okay? So now we're just ready to go ahead and call that phone number, so.
Hi. Am I speaking with Anthony?
Yeah.
Great. My name is Chloe, and I'm calling from the Glow Clinic. I'm reaching out because you had previously shown interest in our services, and I wanted to personally follow up. Is now a good time for a brief chat?
Yeah, that's fine.
Wonderful. Thank you. Are you still considering options for skincare or aesthetic treatment?
Yeah, actually, I was looking for a solution for my skin.
That's great to hear. The best next step is to schedule a complimentary consultation with one of our specialists to go over your goals. Is that something you'd be open to?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Excellent. What day would work best for you?
Yeah, can we do Friday?
Great news, Anthony. I have a few times available on Friday, August 15th. We have Friday at 8 a.m., 9 a.m., or 12 p.m.
Sure, let's
You
do
prefer.
Friday at 8 a.m.
Perfect. Just to confirm, Anthony, I have you down for a consultation on Friday, August 15th at 8 a.m. Is that all correct?
Yes.
Excellent. Your appointment is confirmed. You'll receive a text message with the details shortly. We look forward to seeing you. Goodbye.
All right, bye. All right, so as you can see, it automatically called. Now, the only difference here I would say is that it doesn't look like it used the lead qualification tool because it didn't find that I was interested in some skin stuff. So that would be the only thing is you just have to go back into your prompt and just make sure that it's using that as it was doing in the assistant appointment setter. So now other than that, it did this very well. Basically, it went over to my Google Sheet and it automatically updated the call sent to yes. Now, the point of that is the next time that this runs, it will basically skip this row because the call sent column is not empty, right? And so that's really the point here of updating this to yes is it tells you that it's already been called and it causes the cold caller to not call the same person more than once. So as you can see, in just 10 minutes, I was able to set up a lead reactivation cold caller, and you can do the same as well for your business or for your agency.
Hola, estoy muy bien, gracias. 是的，我会说中文. 네, 한국어 가능합니다. 어떤 치료에 관심 있으신가요?
Part 7 of building the ultimate AI agent for my students, multilingual support. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to change your agent from a dumb one that only speaks one language to a smart one that speaks every single language imaginable. And the crazy thing is we can actually do this in only 2 easy steps. The first one is we're just going to need to change some settings, basically the voice. We're going to change it to a multilingual voice. And second of all, we're just going to update the prompt so that we can tell our agent that it needs to be listening for a language and then basically using that language for the rest of the conversation. So let's go ahead and go over to VAPI. Now, you probably already have it set up. It's just going to be OpenAI, GPT-5 Mini, update all of this. If you don't have this, make sure to go to my school community and just input it in real quick. All right, so just scroll down. Now, the important part is right here. It's going to be called voice configuration. Go ahead and click on that. Now, we've just been using the default, which is Elliot from VAPI. But in order to do multilingual, we need to go to OpenAI. No. We need to go to 11 Labs. Okay. And the voice that we're going to use is someone called Alexandria. Okay. Alexandria, conversational and real, because that's exactly how we like him. Okay. And then the model is going to be 11 Multilingual V2, our state-of-the-art multilingual speech synthesis model, able to generate lifelike speech in 29 languages. That sounds like exactly what we need. Okay. Now scroll down to transcriber, and the provider that we'll use here is called Google, and it's just going to be multilingual language. The model will leave as Gemini 2.0 Flash because that looks like the strongest model here. Perfect. And now that is done. So literally all that we need to do now is basically go up to the prompt. And right now it doesn't say anything about language. So all we need to do is say something about language. So you'll just go in here. Honestly, the easiest way to do this is just copy this and then go over to an AI like ChatGPT or something and just say, okay, well, here's my current prompt. I'm trying to add multilingual capability. So go ahead and give me an updated prompt that makes it speak every single language. So I've already done that just to make it easy for you. So go ahead and go to the files that you downloaded from my school community, double click on the assistant prompt, copy, go back over to VAPI and just Control A, Control V to replace that. Okay. And literally all that we're changing is basically this. Like, let's say right here, step 0, universal language detection. Analyze the caller's very first words to identify their language. Okay, so it's literally, you guys talk on the phone. Obviously, if you're trying to speak a different language, that's not normal. So it's going to be listening for that, and it's going to be paying attention to, okay, well, this guy speaks Spanish, so I'm going to need to respond with Spanish or whatever it might be, right? So that's pretty simple to understand. Cool. Now, once you've done that, all this left to do is basically make sure that everything's hooked up properly, like n8n. So go ahead and go back over to n8n. This is the workflow that we've been working on. If you don't have this, like I said, make sure to import it from school community and just basically go over here, hit save and hit active to make sure that it's actively listening for dual calls. Okay. Now go back over to VAPI. What we need to check here is we basically need to check that the tools are all hooked up. So perfect. It looks like the server URLs are properly hooked up. So nothing's changed here. And then go back over to phone numbers, just make sure that it's hooked up. So we're going to go down to assistant and we're going to make it this one. Okay. Because that's the one that was associated with the prompt that we just updated. And this is going to be the number that I'm going to have to call. So scroll back up, hit save. And all that is left to do is to call that number and we'll be able to talk to it.
Thank you for calling the Glow Clinic. This is Chloe. How may I help you today?
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Hola, estoy muy bien, gracias.
你会说中文吗？
是的，我会说中文。请问您对那种治疗感兴趣？您以前做过这种治疗吗？
한국말 할 수 있나요?
네, 한국어 가능합니다. 어떤 치료에 관심 있으신가요? 그리고 그 치료를 이전에 받아보신 적이 있나요?
네, 월요일 9시에 예약하고 싶고, 제 이름은 앤토니입니다.
좋습니다, 애니님. 확인을 위해 다시 말씀드리면 8월 18일 월요일 오전 9시에 무료 상담으로 예약 도와드렸습니다. 맞으신가요?
네, 감사합니다. You just watch me turn it from a dumb agent that only speaks English into something that speaks every single language in the whole wide world. Part 9 of building the ultimate AI agent for my students. Continuous learning and call summaries. We're going to skip number 8 because our student actually doesn't need this for his project, so it doesn't matter for what we're doing today. Let's go ahead and go over to n8n, and I'm going to show you what our workflow is going to look like by the end of this video. So this is what we had in the last part 7 for multilingual, and this is what we're going to have by the end of today, which is going to include things like call summaries and call evaluations. So really, as you can see, the only difference between the two is that we've added another router. And this router is going to be responsible for basically routing based on if it's a tool call or if it's a analysis based on the call. So call analysis just basically means, is it a call summary or is it a success evaluation? And then if it is a analysis of the call, then it's going to route the workflow over here. And we're just going to find the appointment. And then we're going to update the appointment with a call summary. And then we're going to update a Google Sheet or whatever CRM. You could change this to Airtable, whatever. I've already taught you how to do that. And basically it's going to log the success evaluation into your CRM. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. It's pretty simple to understand. It's really just those 4 changes. It's you add the router and then you add a workflow for that router. Okay. So in order to do that, basically we're going to have to go to VAPI So this is what we have for our agent since last time. It's just going to be OpenAI, whatever model you want. And then, we've already done all these settings. Now scroll down to a section called analysis. Now here is where we can add information about the call summary, as you can see here, and the success evaluation. Let's start with the call summary. This is the prompt that's used to summarize the call. The output is stored in call analysis summary. You can also find the summary in the call logs page. So what we're going to do is we're going to open that up, and it's going to ask us for a prompt. Now, you would just need to write a basic prompt here, saying something like, you are an expert note taker for the Glow Clinic. Your task is to analyze the call transcript and create a concise 2 to 3 sentence summary for the esthetician, right? And that's basically exactly what our student wanted. Is he said that he wanted a way to basically summarize the call in order so that the esthetician or dentist or whatever niche that you're in just basically has a good idea of what was actually said during that call. Things like, what are they interested in? Had they had the treatment before? Do they have any other questions? Are they concerned about pricing? Things like that. That's basically going to help you during your actual consultation. Okay, and then the other settings, we can just leave them as default because they don't really matter that much. Okay, and by the way, you can get this from my school community. I've already created all these files. Let's see here. So yeah, like you can see, I've already created those files. It's going to be called call summary prompt. Okay, and I also have one called success evaluation prompt. Right, so you just copy it and then go over here. The next dropdown is going to be called success evaluation. Evaluate if your call was successful. You can use rubric standalone or in combination with success evaluation prompt. If both are provided, they are concatenated into appropriate instructions. Go ahead and click on that. And it's going to ask for another prompt. And you would just say something like, you are an expert AI call analyst. Your task is to evaluate the call success based on the assistant's objectives by analyzing the entire transcript and the system prompts logic. And so really the point of this is that we're trying to see which parts of the call succeeded and which parts failed. And the reason why we were doing that is if we take 10 calls or however many, let's just take, say 10 calls, for example, and then 9 of those calls succeeded, but then 1 of them failed, then we have a good idea of like which one's working and which one's not, right? Or if we say we take 100 calls and then 80 of them succeed, but 20 of them fail for, let's say, like rescheduling an appointment, then we know that maybe something's wrong with rescheduling an appointment, right? And that tells us that we need to go back and focus on that for improving for the future, right? So it basically just gives us a lot of data to tell us what we need to focus on to improve our process. So I just basically written this saying like, okay, well, here are some tools that we use, such as lookup client, qualifying, all this kind of stuff. If it succeeds, then go ahead and log it as success. But if it fails, log it as failure or not applicable. Sometimes you don't need to call a tool. So, it doesn't need to succeed every time if you're not using it, right? So really it's just tracking the success and the failure. And then once you have data on the failure, you know which one to focus on. All right. And then set the success evaluation rubric to automatic. That's perfect. And then finally, in order to make sure that the data is actually sent over to our n8n workflow, you need to go down to this messaging section. So as you remember, we use server URLs or webhook URLs in order to pass information from one program to another. So this webhook URL is literally the same exact one that we've been using for our tool calls. So you just either grab that from our tool call or grab it from n8n and then just paste it in here. So it's literally the exact same idea. So go ahead and scroll down. The default, it's going to give you lots of information here. So there's like, let's see, I'll just show you real quick. It pretty much defaults to all its information. If you activate all of this, your workflow is going to get really cluttered really fast. So what I like to do is uncheck everything and only enable end of call report and tool calls. Because if you think about it, we're only trying to track our tool calls. And now that we've added the end of call report for the things like the call analysis, then basically that's going to be the 2 things that we're going to log. I've tried this. Basically, if you turn on conversation update, it'll literally do like 4 executions for every single like turn of the conversation. And then it's just too much clutter. So that looks like everything. then you just go up here and hit publish to save that. So let's go ahead and go back to our n8n workflow to talk about basically how to log things into our CRM. So let's go over here. Let's go. The first thing that's going to happen is it's going to find the event that's basically associated with the phone number of the caller. So that was pretty simple. We've already done this in previous parts, but again, it's just grabbing the customer's phone number. After that, it's going to update the Google Calendar summary using more information. So if we open this up, it's basically adding this information, which is going to be the call analysis summary at the bottom, right? So it's just saying call summary, and it's just appending it to the bottom of the existing call summary. Okay. And finally, we need to add a Google Sheet node that's basically going to add the information to a new Google Sheet. So let's go ahead and open that up, see what that looks like. So as you can see, we're using our old sheet or our old document called Clinic Contacts, but we're going to create a new sheet called Call Evaluations. So I'm going to go over here. I've already created it. So basically this is Clinic Contacts. And then if you go down here, just hit plus, and then you could add a new sheet. You can call it whatever you want, but for this example, I've called it Call Evaluation. So click on that and then just create a column. Again, you can call this whatever you want. I've named it Call Evaluations. And the point here is whenever a call has been done, we're trying to log the call here so that eventually, we're going to have let's say 30. And then when we have enough information, we can just take all the information, put it into an AI like ChatGPT or whatever, and just ask it to do some analysis, right? So you can say okay, well, which ones succeeded and which ones have the highest success rate? Which one has the highest failure rate? And based on that information, which one should I focus on in order to prioritize my effort in improving my process, something like that, okay? All right, so now that that's done, the last thing that there is to do is to go back over to VAPI and call our agent. So let's just go over real quick, just to make sure everything is updated correctly. So go to our tools, just make sure that the URLs are all correct. That looks good. Go to phone numbers, scroll down to assistant, just make sure that it's assigned to the phone number.
Thank you for calling the Glow Clinic. This is Chloe. How may I help you today?
I would like to book an appointment.
I'd be happy to help you get started. To begin, what treatment are you interested in today?
I am interested in getting Botox.
Okay, thank you. And have you had this type of treatment before?
No, I have not.
Perfect. Thank you for that information. The next step is to schedule a complimentary consultation with one of our specialists. Is that something you'd be open to?
Yes.
Of course. Let's find a time that works for you. What day would work best for you to come in?
Can we do Wednesday of this week?
I have a few times available on Wednesday, August 20th. We have 8 a.m., 10 a.m., and 11:30 a.m. Would any of those work for you?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do 8 a.m. on Wednesday.
Great. May I have your full name to book the consultation appointment?
Yeah, my name is Anthony Ton, Ton.
Okay, Anthony Ton, just to confirm, I have you down for a consultation on Wednesday, August 20th at 8 a.m. Is that all correct?
That is correct.
Excellent. Your consultation appointment for Botox is now booked for Wednesday, August 20th at 8 a.m. If you need any further assistance, please don't hesitate to call us. Have a wonderful day.
All right,
Bye-bye.
All right, so as you can see, it was able to automatically book that appointment, got my name, my phone number correct. And by the way, I also removed the section about qualification, things like that, like treatment, interest, and had before, because the point is we're going to append the summary at the end of this automatically. So let's go ahead and first of all, check the success that it updated automatically. And as you can see, it did update automatically. So it's saying that the overall call outcome was appointment was booked. It says that this was a success, 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 success. And reschedule appointment was not used, cancel appointment was not used, and human handoff was not used. So that's absolutely perfect, right? And so as I was saying earlier, all that you would do is you would just make a bunch of calls, and then you would just take all the information, copy it, put it into AI like ChatGPT and be like, okay, well, do some data analysis on this, figure out which ones failed the most, and that's going to be what you're going to focus on. Okay. And then let's go to sheet 1 just to make sure that it updated correctly. And yes, it did look like it updated correctly. So that is perfect. Now, we need to go back over to, I believe, our Google Calendar to see that it appended the information automatically. And yes, it did. As you can see, it says, new client, n8n, is interested in Botox and he has not had this treatment before. He has booked a complimentary consultation for Wednesday, August 20th at 8 a.m. No other specific concerns or services were mentioned. Okay. And again, just to show you how exactly that works is if you go back to n8n. So this is basically what is doing that, right? So this node right here is going to grab the event after it gets booked. So after it got booked, it had my name and my phone number, and that was it, right? After it got booked, it's going to find that, and then it's going to update it, append it with the summary that says, new client n8n, he's interested in getting Botox. That's where that's going to go. And then finally, we're going to use our Google Sheet node, which is going to add the row that is basically saying the success evaluation that you saw earlier. It was like outcome is appointment booked and everything was a success. Okay. So that is basically it. Today, you have learned how to implement machine learning and also call summaries so that you can tell your estheticians what exactly went on during that conversation. And you can identify your bottlenecks to see which ones that you should prioritize when you're trying to improve your agents. Hey guys, Anthony here. This is part 10 of building the ultimate agent for my students, the production ready agent, testing and deploying. So by the end of this video, you'll have the exact 10-part system of how to build, deploy, and profit from AI voice agents. And to make it super easy for you, I'm going to give you my exact SOP for developing the production-ready ultimate med spa agent. And in this video, I'm going to be going through it step by step to show you exactly how to follow this. Let's go ahead and get started with number 1. Watch and learn the Ultimate Clinic Agent full course. So if you haven't already, go back and make sure you watch all the parts. Number 2, download the files from the last part of the full course. So in my school community, I'm going to have all the files. Just go over to the YouTube tab, and I'm going to make a post, and you just click on one of these and hit download. I've already done that just to make it easy. I got all my files over here. Okay. Number 2, VAPI, create a new assistant. So go ahead and go to VAPI. That's what we use for developing AI voice agents. Get started with the link in the description. Go ahead and click create assistant. Doesn't matter what you call it. You can enter whatever you want. All right. Step B, set the model to GPT-5 mini. So we're going to go over here, and this is where you can configure the settings for the model. Now you're probably wondering, why do I choose 5 mini out of all these choices? It just comes down to testing. And by the way, I was going to show you how to do testing, but it's really boring and really tedious. All you do is you have what you start out with, you give it a call, ask some questions, and whatever you feel like it's not doing well, you just go back and change that part of it. And then you test it again, and you just try to get better and better. So I'm just going to go through the setup and show you what I think is, probably going to be the best. And then we might do some tests. And if we figure out anything that needs to get improved, I'll show you how to do that. Okay. So let's go ahead and choose GPT-5 mini. Now, step C, set first message mode to assistant speaks first with generated message. So done. Paste the system prompt from assistant prompt part 10. So go ahead and go over here. Assistant prompt part 10. Control A, Control C, Control A, Control V, makes it nice and easy. You can hit Control S, or you can just hit the publish button here to save. Perfect. Next, it says set the temperature to 0. So here you can change the temperature. Temperature just basically means how variable or how crazy you want the content to be. 0 is going to be the least crazy, and 2 is going to be the most crazy. Now, in my previous videos, I've been saying that 0.4 is the best. It really just depends. You just got to do testing. Especially when protected health information is used, you want to make sure that the temperature is lower so that there's a lower chance of it basically messing up and leaking that information. So we'll just start with 0, and if it doesn't work, we can always increase it later. Next, set the voice configuration to 11 labs. So 11 labs. Now the choices, you can choose anything that you want, but I've been doing some testing and I like that. I found that I like Alexandra and Suzanne the most. So go ahead and click voice. And for this, I'll just use Alexandra for now. Okay. And then set the model to 11 multilingual V2. This is going to be responsible for allowing it to speak every single language. Additional configuration. So here we can basically set some more settings. Again, this just requires tons of testing. I did a bunch, and this is what I found to be the best. So stability is going to be 1. Clarity and similarity is going to be max as well. Speed is 1.1. Style exaggeration can just be 0 because you want it to be as fast as possible. Optimize streaming latency. This is also going to be max because you want low latency. Latency just means lag, basically. And we're going to turn speaker boost on and auto mode on. And again, you just need to test this to see what you like. You can always change that. Moving on to transcriber. Here we're going to choose Google, and it's going to be multilingual. And basically what it does is it allows the agent to listen for different languages so that it knows how to basically respond in that language. So we're going to keep this at 2.0 flash. Now tools, this is where we're going to basically create tools and then give it to our agent. But since we haven't created them yet, we're just going to skip it for now. Next is predefined functions. This is where you're going to enter your forwarding phone number. So let's say that, in this case, maybe there's a medical emergency or maybe they need to transfer a call. This is when you would give them your phone number to your human. So, just give it to your human receptionist or maybe even your boss. Okay. And that's done. So in summary, paste the call summary prompt.json. So here it's going to be the analysis section, and it's going to be called summary. This is going to allow us to summarize the call so that our esthetician can have a good idea of basically what happened in that conversation, what they're interested in, what they're concerned about, things like that. So go ahead and go to the files. It's going to be called call summary prompt. Control A, Control C, Control V, save. The defaults are fine for this. Next is success evaluation. This basically allows us to track if the calls went well or what didn't go well so that it can allow us to consistently improve our agent. So go ahead and open success evaluation prompt. Paste. Save. All right. And the success evaluation rubric is going to be automatic. Now, if you just take a look at some of the other ones, they're not that helpful. It doesn't if you set it to 1 to 10, you're not going to know what went well and what didn't. Same thing with all of these. So you just want to use automatic. What that's going to do is it's going to follow what you actually wrote in your prompt. Awesome. Next is, so here I have some settings here. This is going to be only for my actual students in my school community. It's just some settings that you can make to basically make your agent like 2 times better, and it's really easy to do. So I'm just going to reserve that for my students because they deserve that. Okay. And here it says in messaging, skip the server URL for now. So let's see. So the server URL is basically what will allow you to connect VAPI with n8n, which is going to be the backend that we'll use for this. Basically, it says what address should we send the data on. So if we set it to a URL and we connect it to n8n, then it'll send that URL. It'll send the data on that URL to n8n. So let's leave the ambient for now. It says in server messages, select only end of call report and tool calls. So go down over here. As you can see, the default is basically defaulting to a lot of information. But if you have this, it's going to clutter up your n8n because it's going to literally give you like 4 different executions for every single turn of the conversation. So make sure to just hit select all twice. That'll get rid of all that. And then click on end of call report and tool calls. And basically what that'll do is it'll limit the executions to only when you're sending a tool call or when you're doing a call analysis, which is basically call summary or success evaluation. All right, so Control S to save the VAPI assistant. Now we're going to go to the Tools tab and we're going to create some tools. So create tool, custom tool. Now, as you know, we have a bunch of tools, so I'll just go through there real quick. But the first one is going to be called Lookup Client by Phone. And actually, I changed this a little bit because, okay, I'll just make this real quick. Okay. So in the past, what happened was I was actually creating a parameter that was called something like client identifier. But actually, we don't need that because the phone number is already being passed in by the VAPI AI voice engine. So that was, one thing that I found during my testing is, basically when you're going back from 0 to 100, you just want to make sure that everything's consistent. You're not repeating anything unnecessarily. So that's perfect. Next thing to do is to get the next tool. So the next tool should be called check availability. Control A, Control C, create tool, custom tool, check availability, parameters, visual editor, paste, apply, save. Okay. Oh, and by the way, we don't need to add the server settings here anymore because in our assistant, since we're already using that, it applies to all the tools. So that's one nice thing. In the past, I wasn't using the thing in the assistants, which is why I was passing it in here, but that's just something to keep in mind. Okay, so create tool, book appointment, Control A, Control C, book appointment, parameters, visual editor, paste, apply, save, create tool, custom tool. This one should be called cancel and also reschedule. I will just start with cancel. All right, so that should do it. We have our 5 tools. This is going to be responsible for the appointment setting portion of this AI voice agent. Now, of course, you can add different functionalities such as RAG for answering FAQ, or you can also add functionality for an outbound assistant, but that's up to you. I'm going to show you just real quick how you do that for RAG. So there's going to be a tool call called get user documents tool. So you would literally just do the exact same thing, just copy and then create a tool. I guess I'll just do it, but the thing is, it's really easy and like you don't have to use this, by the way, so that's fine. But if you want to do things like, put your company information in there, then it is a little helpful. So cool, that works. And now go back over here, create all the custom tools using the files from school. Perfect. And now we just need to click on the phone numbers tab. So here you'll be able to create up to 10 free phone numbers if you're in the USA. Create. And if you're not in the USA, you would just go to Twilio to buy that. It's usually about $1.15 per month. And all you would do is you would just go, let's see, where are we? You would just say create phone number and you hit import Twilio and you just enter in your phone number that you purchased. And then this is going to be for your account. So you just create you just go to your homepage and you just copy and paste it in. And that's it. Very simple. So this is the phone number that I'm going to be using for now. And it looks like I forgot a step, which is I need to go back and assign to the assistant the tools that I created. So I'll just add that in real quick. Go back to assistants. And give the assistant the tools. Yeah. So go back to the assistants tab, scroll down to the tools section. This is where we're going to hit select all so that I can use all the tools that we created. Save. All right, scroll up to hit save to save. Oh yeah, it looks like I forgot to assign the phone number to my assistant. So I'll go back to phone numbers. Go down here to inbound settings and then click assistant, new assistant. This basically assigns that assistant to this phone number. So go open it. That is officially the setup for VAPI completely done. So the next thing that we need to do is go to n8n. Here's n8n. Easiest way to do this is go ahead and hit these 3 dots, import from file, and just import that file. So here I'll just make this better size. But it's basically saying import the ultimate agent part 10 JSON workflow to n8n. So it's gonna be called ultimate agent part 10. Perfect. And that is what it's going to look like. Now, in the variables node, update the business details, Twilio number, and CRM. So this is going to be the variables node. Click on that. The CRM that I'm going to use is Cool Sheets. That looks fine. Make sure to change your time zone. And Twilio number, just get that from your Twilio dashboard. Okay. In the VAPI tool call webhook, set authentication to header off. So this is really important. Now, when I was just teaching you all this in the previous parts, we weren't worrying about this, but this is really important for securing your webhook. If you don't do this, other people can just listen to your information and basically steal all your clients' information. So this is very, very important. Alrighty, so go ahead and double click on the VAPI tool call webhook. And here you're going to see obviously your production URL. We're going to need this later. But the part that we're worried about right now is called authentication. Now, as I was saying earlier, this is important for securing your webhook. The type of authentication that we're going to use is called header auth. Now, you can learn about the other ones, but this is the easiest and the simplest and the best way to do it. So header auth, and here it's asking to create a credential. So go ahead and create a new credential. And the information that it needs for this is basically a name and a value. It's pretty simple. You can just understand this as basically like a username and a password. But obviously, um, like they recommend you to use like a 64 character password. But if you want to do that, that's fine. If you don't, just use a normal 10 character password. That's fine. So name, we'll just call this, I don't know, client one. And for the value for this, I'll just use like some random thing. It's easy to remember. We're going to need this later for when we pass it into our VAPI assistant. So just make sure that it's something easy to remember. Or if you make it a really long one, make sure to copy it somewhere so that you can paste it back. Okay. Go ahead and hit save. And there it is. Credentials successfully created. That is good. Now, make sure that you copy your production URL because we need to go back to VAPI. And then we need to go back to our assistants. And then we're going to go all the way down to the messaging section. We're going to paste it in for the section URL, the server URL, because as I was saying earlier, this is important to connect VAPI with n8n. And then skip the secret token. We're going to go to the HTTP headers because this is the header auth where we were talking about earlier. Go ahead and click add header. The header name is just going to be the name that we created. In this case, it was client one. And the value is just going to be that secret password that you just created, just like that. Okay. And for this example, I'm just making it super easy. So, it's just simple, but as I was saying earlier, make sure that it's actually secure. So go ahead and hit publish to save that. All right. So where were we? Copy the VAPI tool call webhook. We've already done that to your clipboard. Well, I guess I forgot to say where to paste it in at, but basically go back to VAPI, scroll down, messaging, enter the production URL as the server URL. HTTP headers. Enter the name and password that you just created for header auth. It's pretty simple, guys. You guys can do that. Okay. Double click on each CRM node, then in settings, turn on retry on fail. So the point of this is basically because sometimes when your third-party CRM is trying to do a function, it might be a network error, it might be their server's down, something like that, and never really know. So to make it the most robust, it's just much easier to do something really simple. Just identify the nodes that are third-party. So right here, Google Calendar, for example, go and click on settings, and then click on retry on fail. Basically what that does is it'll give it 3 tries, and it'll wait 1 second in between, and it'll basically just retry 3 times. Now you can change this if you want to. Sometimes it's easier to make it 5,000 milliseconds or 5 seconds, but it doesn't really matter. The point is that you just have a little bit of extra, I guess, security, extra robustness in your production ready agent. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that for all of them. All right, so I just clicked on what I believe is all of the third-party nodes, and I just made sure that I set them to retry out fail. So that's a little bit more robust. All right, so the next step is if you're using RAG, import the 3 RAG workflows. So go ahead and create a new n8n workflow. Go to these 3 dots, click on import from file. The first one's going to be called ultimate agent part 2.json. Now remember, this is going to have all 3 parts stuck together, so we need to break them up. So the one that is going to be first is just going to be this one that is responsible for the VAPI webhook trigger that will get the information from the documents and then send the information back to VAPI. So basically, in order to clean this up, we're going to have to get rid of these ones because these are responsible for the, whatchamacallit, automatically uploading company files to Google Drive. And then this one's going to be responsible for automatically deleting deleted files from the Google Drive. So get rid of that. That's perfect. Save, and you just hit active here. Oh, and obviously you would have to go through and make sure that you update it using your credentials. So that's perfect. Well, actually, it looks like it didn't default correctly. So just make sure you follow the part 2 video for this. But basically, you're just going to update your credential, and then you're going to set it to 2.5 flash light. Now, the reason for that is it's the strongest model, and it's also using the light model, so it's extremely fast. So that's the one that we want. Supabase is just going to ask you for setting up your credential here. Embedding, that's correct. And then Supabase is going to ask for your table name, which is correct. Okay. So now that is done, go ahead and set it to active if you're using that. Next, go ahead and create another workflow. So import from file. This one is going to be the Ultimate Agent Update Google Drive section of it. And same thing here. All you're going to do is set up your credential, the embedding that looks correct, and then import to Supabase. This is your correct credential and your table name that is correct. Go ahead and save and active. Perfecto. Now, last thing is to import the last file. It's going to be called Ultimate Agent Delete Supabase. And all you need to do is, if your credentials aren't already saved, just click on that and it'll automatically update that. So that is perfect. Sure. Yeah, just go ahead and do that and hit active, okay? Obviously, if you need to do, if you need a refresher, go ahead and visit part 2. That's going to teach you how to do things like setting up your company documents, setting up Supabase, things like that. All right, so the next step is toggle the n8n workflows to active and basically give it a test. So same thing with here, make sure that you hit save and set it to active, okay? So it looks like we're pretty much done. I'm going to go through basically from the bottom up, just make sure that everything's aligned so that we're ready to give it a test. So let's go back over to VAPI now. Let's start with the new assistant, right? So new assistant, 5 mini, that was correct. So remember, my time zone is America, Chicago. That's important because we also need to check it with things like our tools and also our n8n variables node. So, okay, temperature, that looks fine. Yeah, perfect. Tools, yes, I gave it all 6 tools. That is perfect. And the messaging section, it looks like I did put this in correctly, and so that looks good. Perfect. All right, now go to the tools. I have my 6 tools created, and they are all perfect. Remember, we don't need to add this because we're already doing it in the messaging section. Perfect. And the important thing to note here is we need to go through here and basically look at our visual editor and see that we are using the right time zone. So here, it doesn't look like it's using anything for the time zone, so that's fine. It doesn't look like this one used the time zone either. No, perfect. I believe this is the one that uses the time zone. So go ahead and hit visual editor. Actually, no, this one doesn't even use the time zone. Maybe it's check availability. Yeah, this is the one that uses the time zone. Basically, we're searching for the day that they're asking for to get the information. So you just need to update this to say whatever your time zone is. Like let's say you're in the UK, you just need to change this to your time zone. And then this one doesn't need anything, so that's perfect. Phone numbers, the only thing to check here is the fact that I have assigned it to my phone number. It is, so that's perfect. Now going back to our n8n workflow, just making sure that the variables node is using America, Chicago. That is perfecto. And that is it. So all that is left to do is to give it a call and we'll see what happens. So if you guys haven't already created the Google Sheet, it's going to look like this. This is going to log all the customers that call in. It's going to log the phone number. And then if you want, you could build your outbound agent and basically give them a cold call or like a follow-up, whatever. And finally, there's going to be another sheet called call evaluations. And after every call, it's going to automatically update it with something that looks like this. And then once you have like 2 or 3 or however many, if you like to do this weekly or bi-weekly, whatever, it's up to you. But just copy all of the entries and then put them into an AI like Google Gemini or ChatGPT and then basically ask, okay, which ones are the ones that failed the most? Which ones are the ones that succeeded the most? And that'll tell you which ones are working well and which ones are failing. And I'll tell you which one you need to focus on. So Let's go ahead and give it a test. Go to VAPI, and I'm going to call my number.
Thank you for calling the Glow Clinic. This is Chloe. How may I help you today?
Hey, Glue, do you have a boyfriend?
I'm here to assist you with any questions or appointments related to the Glow Clinic. How can I help you today?
Sure. Can you go ahead and give me a list of all the services that you guys offer?
One moment, please. The Glow Clinic offers a range of services, including injectables such as neurotoxins like Botox and Dysport, as well as dermal fillers like Juvederm Collection and Rescheduling. We also provide skin rejuvenation treatments, including medical-grade chemical peels, hydrofacial, and RF microneedling with
All right, that's perfect. Could you go ahead and help me schedule an appointment then for Botox, please?
I'd be happy to help you get started. To begin, what treatment are you interested in today?
Yeah, I want some neurotoxins like Botox or Dysport.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and have you had this type of treatment before?
No.
Perfect. Thank you for that information. The next step is to schedule a complimentary consultation with one of our specialists. Is that something you'd be open to?
Definitely.
Of course. Let's find a time that works for you. What day would work best for you to come in?
Yeah, could you see if you have any time on Thursday of this week?
Could you? Great. Let me check our schedule for Thursday of this week. One moment. I see availability on Friday, August 22. I have several times available: 8:30 a.m., 9 a.m., and 9:30 a.m. Would any of those times work for you?
Sure, let's go ahead and do 9 a.m. on that Friday.
May I please have your full name to book the consultation appointment?
Yeah, my name is Anthony Ton, Ton.
Okay, Anthony Ton, just to confirm, I have you down for a consultation for Botox on Friday, August 22 at 9 a.m. Is that all correct?
That is correct.
Excellent. Let me lock that in for you. Just a moment. Your appointment is now successfully booked. If you have any other questions or need further assistance, please feel free to call. Have a wonderful day.
All right, bye-bye. All right, so there you go. That is how you book that appointment using RAG. Now, the only thing that I would say is that it ended up booking the appointment before it actually locked it in. So that's one of the reasons why testing is really, really important. You got to test this hundreds of times, okay? So all you would do to fix that is basically go to VAPI, and then you just go into the system prompt, and you just say something like, make sure that you've double checked and you've absolutely confirmed that the caller has confirmed and that they want to lock in the appointment before you actually call the book appointment tool to book that appointment. So that's pretty simple to do. And actually, one more thing is during my testing, what I realized is that when you have multiple workflows for, in this case, RAG, and then you have a separate workflow for the AI appointment setter, what actually happened is a lot of times it'll mix up the tool calls. So what I found is easier is if you just put them all into one workflow. So basically what I did was I went over here and I added into the tool router the get user documents tool, and I just moved everything over, and basically it's the same exact thing, but it's all in one workflow now. So this makes it a little bit easier. Now you only have to manage a total of 3 instead of 4. Basically, we don't need this anymore. We still need these two because this one's responsible for updating the Supabase database, and then this one's responsible for deleting from the Supabase database. So that's still necessary, but this is what I have. And another thing with that is what I realized is that you got to basically go into the VAPI and you got to mess around with the model. What's really weird is that I've been testing with GPT-5, and although it seems a lot smarter than GPT 4.1 mini, it can also give you stuff that you don't want. So in a way, GPT 4.1 mini can be more consistent in my experience. So that's probably what I would use for this med spa agent. So there it is. You guys have just learned how to test, debug, and deploy a fully production-ready AI voice agent for your client. And again, this can go for lots of, hundreds, if not thousands of dollars every single month. So it's very important stuff. And by the way, I'm going to share with you my SOP that I have right here. So make sure to check that in the comments. And if you want to get the full version that has this information, you'll have to get it from my school community, which is over here. So remember, in order to get those documents, go ahead and go over to the YouTube tab and click onto the post I'm going to make and go ahead and download those files. And if you have any questions, go to the one-on-one support tab, ask me any question, and I'll make sure to get you that answer. All right, that basically concludes the ultimate agent, guys. It's pretty exciting stuff. Make sure you go through step 1 through 10 so you understand exactly how this works. Again, when I'm doing this for you, it gets you pretty much 95% of the way there. If you deploy this as is for your client, it'll probably be sufficient. You know, it'll get the appointments done and it'll do exactly what you need it to do. But the last 5% is very important. You need to constantly test and make sure that you're constantly improving. So let's actually go to the Google sheet over here, and I'll show you that it automatically updated. So as you can see, as a result of the call, it automatically added my name and my phone number to the Google Sheet, which is the CRM that we chose to use for this example. And then in the call evaluations, you can see that it logged it as well, right? So appointment booked, and it correctly said that I'm getting Botox and all this good stuff, okay? And another thing is, for the call summary that we talked about to the esthetician, we can actually go to the Google thing over here. And then now that the call ended, it should have updated, right? So I'm pretty sure if I click out of here and click back in, it'll have updated with the summary. So there it is, automatically updated with the call summary, and it has all the information. So like I said, guys, this is working pretty much perfectly, 95% of the way there. Make sure that you test it over and over again and consistently improve. Hey guys, Anthony here. So today I want to talk about how you can provide your clients the perfect onboarding for your AI voice agency so that they're sticking with you month after month and not churning after the first month or two. Let's go ahead and dive right into it. So obviously the goal of this is to provide them the perfect onboarding experience. How are we going to do that? Well, the best way to approach this problem is by using a method called first principles. And basically what that means is we're not approaching the problem by basically watching a video about what somebody does on YouTube, but rather thinking about it from the ground up, okay? We need to map the value from the perspective of the client. So we basically need to provide the client the maximum amount of value in the least amount of time. And we can only do that by giving them exactly what's needed. So let's first of all think about what exactly is value in the eyes of the customer and how we can do that, how we can give it to them in as little amount of time as possible. So the first thing is we need to map out what the client needs. What is the client looking for? They're looking for more money, more time, and more energy. That's pretty much every business out there. But what's amazing about AI voice agents is that it can do all three of these extremely efficiently. So let's talk about more money first of all. Well, we offer inbound AI receptionists that can help book appointments automatically 24/7. It's extremely efficient. And also, for some clients that have a large database that they're not using, we can offer them an outbound caller that will basically reactivate those leads 24/7 automatically, okay? And obviously that's going to save a lot of time and energy because nobody wants to sit at the phone all day long calling thousands of people, okay? All right, and so let's talk about how we can achieve that goal in the minimum amount of time. Well, what is the absolute minimum that we need to provide in order to achieve that value? First of all, we need to provide them a phone number. This one's pretty easy. You just go to VAPI and just get a free number, or you buy it for pretty much free from Twilio. Second of all, we're going to need to connect some credentials. So pretty much all of your clients are going to use Google Calendar. That one's pretty simple to set up. But if they use a CRM, for example, HubSpot or Airtable or something like that, you're going to need to create like a 5-minute walkthrough video where you'll just send it to them, showing you how to create like a private app or what, depending on the CRM, of course. But basically, you're going to need to get the app token or the API key or whatever it might be for your specific CRM, and that's going to allow you to create your credential in n8n in order to connect with their CRM. And finally, we're going to need to confirm the AI script just to make sure that the AI voice agent is saying exactly what they want the agent to say and not just some random stuff that they don't want them to say, okay? So here are some things that you're going to need to prepare before your 15-minute call. Now, a lot of people, they like to do a 40-minute technical call. That's too much, okay? People are not that technical. Try to keep it at 15 minutes, 30 minutes maximum, okay? 15 minutes is the goal that you're shooting for. And in order to reach that 15-minute goal, basically what we're going to do is we're going to set up the AI voice agent demo. Now, this video is going to be basically for the ultimate agent that I built for one of my students, but you basically want to have that ready so that you can give that to them during the demo. And that's going to get you about 90% of the way there. The last 10%, you just have to talk with the client and make sure that you get that figured out with them. And next thing is, obviously, I said earlier, you're going to create that walkthrough video to show them exactly how to get the app token to give to you to connect CRMs. And finally, you're going to need to write a quick demo agent script, which basically talks about the script that is going to be for your demo. So I actually created it right here, and it basically looks like this, right? So for the ultimate agent, it's going to be Chloe, who is working for the Glow Clinic in this demo, and this is the tone. And this is basically scenario 1 for if the caller is a new patient, okay? And then this is going to be scenario 2 for if they are an existing patient. And this basically allows you guys to both see what is being said as of right now. And then later you'll basically talk about it and you'll say, okay, well, I want this changed or I want this changed or whatever it might be. Okay. So during the call, basically what you'll do is you'll just give them the phone number and you'll ask them to call that number. And when they call that number, obviously they're going to have that conversation. And then by the end of it, they're going to be able to see that their appointment was automatically booked into their calendar. And not only that, they'll see that their CRM was updated because hopefully by now they have given you the app token and you have connected with their CRM. And then finally, once they're impressed by the demo that you just created for them, go ahead and go through the script that I just showed you and just make sure that everything is completely finalized because that'll allow you to basically deploy it for them perfectly. So once you've done that, you basically tell them, okay, well, I'm going to have your agent ready in 3 days. And that's basically going to be your promise. Because obviously, even after you've confirmed the script, you still need to do some testing. Like you just want to make sure that everything is completely good before you actually deploy it to them. But since it's actually pretty quick to do the testing, you actually do it in 2 days and then tell them that it's done within that second day. And by doing that, you're basically under promising and over delivering. And that's always good for making happy clients. So once you're ready, go ahead and send them that email and basically say that your agent's ready and then give them that phone number so that they can put it on their website, put it in their marketing, whatever it might be. And that's literally all you need to do. It's really, really simple. And then once they've been using that for a while, basically you can do this every week, every 2 weeks, or every month. It really is up to you. I found that 2 weeks is basically the sweet spot. But basically you're going to go to the success evaluations in the Google Sheets that basically says, okay, well, the appointment was booked. What was successful? What failed? Things like that, right? And you're basically going to get all the information, put it into an AI like Gemini or ChatGPT, and basically say count the amount of appointments booked, count the amount of calls handled, count the amount of successes and failures, things like that. And then with the data analysis that it gives you, basically write an email to them that shows the client how many calls were saved during that period, and then also how many appointments were booked during that period. And basically what that's going to do is it makes sure that they understand the return on investment that they're getting by working with you. For example, you might be saving them like, I don't know, let's just say like 40 calls a month. And obviously that's going to be worth like, let's just say like $4,000. So that's completely worth it to be hiring you. And then obviously the data analysis that you get from those success evaluations will tell you exactly what is working and what needs to get improved. So let's say, for example, somebody's trying to reschedule and it was unable to do that rescheduling, and that error happened about 20% of the time. And if you identify that as your bottleneck, like if that's the failure that's happened the most, then that's going to be what you're going to focus on in order to improve that for the future. And that basically concludes how to provide your client the perfect onboarding experience and to make sure that you're fulfilling them and basically retaining them as much as possible. Because although finding new clients is important, keeping the clients that you already have is even more important. And I like to say that fulfillment is more important than finding new clients. So guys, if you guys enjoyed that, make sure you go to my school community and make sure you're asking any questions that you need to in the one-on-one support tab. I'll make sure to get the help that you need.
And just like that, you now know how to build fully functional, production-ready AI voice agents for every single niche. Now, if you want to get my complete automated system for finding new clients, go ahead and join my school community if you have not already. And also, guys, just make sure you go to that one-on-one support tab and ask me any question that you want, because that's really the reason why I made the community, is basically to connect with you guys and help you guys every step of the way. So again, thank you guys very much for watching, and hit that subscribe button because I'm going to be making more tutorials like this and probably figure out some other course to make. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a good one.